had to make the weight. Like it wasn't even. I don't even know if that was a possibility. Like I understood that, like, hey, I can quit at any time, right? I didn't have to do it, but in my mind, I'm like, no, I have to make the weight. Like this is a world championship fighter, number one. But even for the last one against Diego Nunes, it's like there's so much on the line, and there's so many people that are depending on me to do this. But it was more me myself being like, no, I need to prove to myself that I can do this, and I'm not going to quit and like the face of adversity, you know?
Yeah, and again, I don't want to bring up the story, but the Diego Nunes, John, I'm telling you,
I've never heard this story.
He was in Weidman's category. He was, and I didn't really I didn't want to interfere, but his team did leave him. They left him for dead. I don't know who. It was me, him, and Weidman.
They were sick of putting up with me. They were sick of putting up with me. It was just me. It was just like Bones in a t-shirt and shorts. It was just gross.
Sick of putting up with you. You couldn't even say a word. You didn't have the energy to talk, Kenny. I swear to God, he could not say a word. That's a fact. I mean, but look, I have my theory, and I'll always hold to this: what you do in that octagon represents what you'll do in life. I would say that's even better than a lie detector test, and it's similar with the weight cut. You know. No, Kerry, he's got integrity. He's got, his character he's got good morals. He's going to do it. Like he's saying, I have to make the weight. I'm going to let people down. Even at his own demise, that's the way his brain's operating. And, it goes to show you the person who he is. I guarantee you, a guy that doesn't make the weight, he's not going to do a lot of things. You know what I mean? He's not going to drive the extra 10 miles to pick up what you need him to pick up. He's going to find a way. I got to take a nap. I have to go here. It'll always be something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, right.
Your brain will find a way to rationalize itself out of the situation. But with the guys that are strong-minded and determined and successful, you're not going to see that.
Right. And if you do need a refresher, if you haven't heard the story real quick, Ken Flo in Vancouver, absolute savage, makes the weight. Boston Bruins in the NHL playing the Vancouver Canucks in the Stanley Cup final. Ken Flo comes out wearing a Sean Thornton Bruins jersey that was probably like a medium, but it looked like a dress at the time. So Kenny's literally inciting these Vancouver fans, even though he's literally like basically half in the casket, right? Just incredible. And then the Bruins go on to win the Stanley Cup in 7 games, game 7.
Yeah.
And to add to that, I've never been sworn at more in my life, and thrown like people were throwing stuff at me. I was laughing as I walked out to the octagon. And then the other thing is the backdrop of that. If you guys remember, there were crazy riots when the Bruins won. They destroyed Vancouver for I don't know if it was at least one night of riots because they lost. So that's how crazy they take it. Like they took it very seriously. So it was. I probably was playing around with my life on 2 occasions: the weight cut and walking out with that Bruins jersey.
Yeah, two things.
I'm pretty dumb.
Yeah, 2 things on that. I do remember being in the streets and they were going freaking crazy, but it was a Canadian crazy. There was something crazy, but it wasn't crazy. But I remember a cop with his motorcycle. The guys were just jumping on his motorcycle. And I'm like looking at these, and the cop's just standing there chilling out. And I'm like, dude, if this is New York, that guy's getting hit in the head with the billy club. He's getting stomped on.
Right.
And fast forward to today, I think it's like Vancouver. I think you can sit on a guy. guys, I swear to God. But back then, when I was watching, I was go, "This is crazy." But you know,
funny.
But Kenny was. I don't know how he even made that fight. Well, we were sitting there. I might think of that accountant guy. I don't know if you remember that guy. So just a typical accountant. You got to sign the fucking. You got to. What exemptions do you need? The guy can't even speak. Kenny's not even making eye contact with the guy. This went on.
Ray stepped in and was like, "Hey, leave him alone."
Hey, buddy, how about get the fuck out of here? Talk to him after he hydrates.
Yeah.
He had to have those exemptions right now. The guy, Kenny never said a word. I guarantee you. Never said a word. And the guy kept coming back. Then he'd come back again. And then I thought, like the last time I go, dude, you got to just go. You got to leave, man. Like there's nothing's going to happen. And then Kenny couldn't even say thank you to me. I feel him patting my leg. It's like saying thank you.
Save the day.
Like Seabiscuit.
I did.
You know? But, no, that's true. But that's crazy. It was how we even, John, how we even fought. It was really bad. I'm
Total
telling
savage.
you.
A rare misstep by our guy Ronald to try to get business done, perhaps there by Ken Flo. But
was that Ronald? Was that his name?
Was it Ron? Yeah.
I mean, see, he looked like a Ronald.
Yeah.
So
for what?
Yeah.
I was asking if the accountant's name was Ronald.
Oh, the account. No, I forget. Who the heck was it? I forget.
It wasn't our guy Ron. Shout out to Ron.
Oh, I don't know who Ronald is. And he was. I would know him if I saw him. I don't think he lasted long though. But
how about that?
What do we got?
Wait. First off, you better be at the gym.
Oh, I'm sitting in your chair right now. Come on, man.
Because I'm ready to rush out of here to go see you. So I'm saying, this motherfucker's home, man. This is bad. Look at him.
I'm about to play your guitar.
All right. That's what I want.
You do whatever you want while I intro UFC.
Yeah, look at him.
Lightweight, Matt the Steamroller Frivola, repping Longo Weidman MMA loud and proud. Huntington, New York's finest, representing northwestern Suffolk County. You can tell this is what I've been preparing this morning. It's good to see you, man. Welcome to Fight Week.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So are you ready to go, kid, or what, man? 6 days from now, Madison Square Garden. If my research is accurate, you have only fought once as a pro in New York State.
Yeah. 4 years ago, we were at MSG. You know, we had an awesome fight with Lando. And now, 4 years later, we're back. And I'm a different animal now, so I can't wait.
So it's your 8th UFC appearance. I know at times you wish that your schedule has been a little bit more active, but 5 of your first 7 UFC fights have been on pay-per-view cards. It seems like they know what they're doing. Oh! Cody's got the trumpets going. Cody, can you just kill that for a second? We'll fucking get to it. I mean, the guy taking over.
Hey,
I might have to demote Cody from executive producer to producer.
John, if I hear those trumpets again, I'm calling Lucky, and I swear to God, I'm calling the dog in.
It's been too much. Call Heidi Dean. She can affect a lot of change as far as that's concerned. But Matt, it just seems like they want you fighting on these pay-per-view cards because obviously you're an elite fighter, but you bring the show.
Yeah, I love it. Every time there's like a big pay-per-view card, I'm always trying to get on it, because like I'm a fan just as much as a fighter. I love like walking around and seeing like Stylebender, seeing Zhang Wei Li, seeing all the top, Dustin Poirier, seeing all the top fighters, so I always want to fight on the biggest cards possible.
All right, so you're coming off a win in January against Genaro Valdez. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That fight was 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Fight before that was 7 seconds. So 3 minutes and 22 seconds of octagon time dating to January of 2021. I know you figure to sort of be asked a lot about that this week. But January of 2021 was the night you were supposed to fight this dude, Otman Azaitar. So I guess that you're probably just anxiously awaiting Friday and Saturday and hoping that you actually get locked in the cage with this guy.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. This is the second full camp I've done for this guy. And, it's not rocket science. He's a righty boxer with heavy hands, throws a kick here or there. So, he's nothing I haven't seen before. We got guys in the gym that do that better than him. I'm ready to go and we're dialed in.
Is it difficult, having a fight canceled and having to reset everything again? How did you manage that mentally, and did it affect your preparation at all?
I mean, yeah, it was tough. It's not ideal. It's happened to me a couple times now. I do a whole camp for one guy. You know, the last time I was supposed to fight Ottman, I prepared for a boxer the entire time. And then the morning of weigh-ins, you know, Dana White cuts him, and then they throw Arman at me, who's a wrestler. You know, it was, but I didn't go all the way to Abu Dhabi to not fight. So I took that fight. You know, I'm a well-rounded fighter. I'm prepared for anything. So, you know, I took that fight and had a good fight, you know. But, yeah, it's not ideal.
So I want to be respectful of your time as your fight week begins. I just have a few more here with Matt the Steamroller Frevola. By the way, you can get his merchandise right now, millions.co. The Steamroller is just flying off the goddamn shelves. So when you first got to Serra Longo MMA, I'm curious about your first encounter with Ray Longo, and I guess as a follow-up, like, who were you most enamored with, right? Was it Longo? Was it Weidman? Like, what got you in the door? Was it Raging Al? For me, Raging Al would have probably been the one that got me in the door.
He's getting like Ariel. He's starting to sound like Helwani. I swear to God, this guy.
I'm prepared today. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Good.
Really, I got to give the credit to my wife, Billy Sinelli. She called Jim. She got me a private with the legend Ray Longo. And I got to do a private with Ray Longo, and then I had Chris Weidman just watching me, and it was insane. You know, it was a dream come true. You know, being a up and coming fighter from Long Island, you know, being able to train, you know, with Ray and with Chris watching, and then, you know, 5-6 years later, you know, we're fighting at MSG, and I got Ray walking out with me. You know, he's gonna be playing the air trumpets.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm gonna put on a great fight.
See, Joe, what I'm trying to get with Matt is he's telling the truth. He is enamored with everybody. I want everybody to be enamored with him. I try to tell him he's the star. You don't have to look at everybody's in the same boat. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So he's I really believe he's gonna make a great mark on the sport this Saturday night. He had a great camp. I'm excited for him, and he does love to fight, and that's always that you can't teach. You can't teach heart and determination like this kid has. So I'm super psyched that we're starting to think a little bit, right? We're starting to use that brain. I'm excited for him.
No, I really think you're like an active calendar year away from potential stardom, you know, just about getting in a fight schedule where, you know, longer fights. But I mean, obviously for our purposes, you dust this guy quickly. Great, right? But fighting 3 times in a calendar year, fighting every 3 months, maybe having a short notice opportunity that you can step into. I know that's difficult, but, you know, there's only a handful of ways you can really resonate with the fan base, and top of the list is to fight, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, one fight at a time. I'm looking to come out there and handle business at MSG. And then, you know, next year is going to be a big year for us.
All right, I got a few more. So Sal the Bulldozer Frevola is your father. You like that, right? See, this is all for you, Longo. So Sal, obviously Sal's going to be in the building, correct? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So you said recently you will no longer be fist bumping Bruce Buffer before the fight.
Nah.
Which is music to my ears. Can you tell our listeners and viewers why you're no longer going to?
This is new to me too.
No, I learned that my UFC debut. I went out there and I bumped him, and then it didn't go my way. And then I started seeing that, you know, most guys who bump Buffer, you know, lose the fight. So.
Oh man, John, Cody, can we get a stat on that? Can we get stats on that?
So this is kind of my fault. I started this, and Rogan loves when I interject this into the broadcast. But I was the first one to sort of say, well, I don't know, you know. You'll see how it goes. You just and then guys started to lose. So definitely below 500, but we don't have the numbers.
Is Buffer robbing people of their testosterone? What's going on? What's happened?
He's all up breathing COVID, all up in. We don't need him breathing COVID all up in the steamroller's face. All right, a few more rapid fire questions here with Matt Frevola, UFC lightweight, on the way out. Favorite New York sports team is who?
New York Mets, baby.
Oh, man. So you got permission from the New York Mets ownership, essentially, to walk out to that song? Do I have that right?
Oh, yeah. I was in the Steve Cohen suite at the Mets game, and talking to him, I told him, I was like, I want to walk out to the Timmy Trumpets, and he was about it. You know, he gave us the okay. He was pumped, and that's what we're doing.
it's really like the icing on top that you have his blessing. But you're Matt the Steamroller Frivola, to Longo's point, like, with respect, you don't need the guy, right? It's nice to have it, right? But it's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like if you get married, right? It's like you want to get the father's blessing, but if he says no, you're still probably getting down on one knee, right? So, I don't know. All right. What's your least favorite sports team? Is it one that plays in New England, or?
Yeah, when those Patriots were winning, I'm a Jets fan as well, and when those Patriots were just crushing it, it was, and I did I went to school for a little bit in Massachusetts, Dean College back in the day, so I was like around all these Patriots fans and Red Sox fans. It's a lot. It was rough up there, especially being a Jets guy.
Some assholes, huh, Ray?
I appreciate
assholes. I like that. So you were around a lot. You were around a lot of massholes.
A lot of them.
We can all agree that Philadelphia is trash here, though, right? Favorite New York athlete of all time?
Yeah, favorite New York athlete, man. I'm gonna have to go with our Mets captain, David Wright. Man, I like that. He was the man back in the day. He was always showed up, always ready to go. He's a captain. I know those Yankee fans like that Jeter guy, but David Wright was always my guy.
I love it. All right, Matt Frivola fights Ottman Azaitar at UFC 281 live from Madison Square Garden this Saturday night. You can see it on ESPN Fight Pass, UFC Fight Pass, ESPN Plus, and all sorts of other places. Check your local listings. Hey, Matty, we appreciate the time here during Fight Week. Wish you health and everything else, and a great weight cut, and look forward to shaking your hand on Friday, my man.
Yeah, of course. It's nice to finally get on the Longo Minute, man.
Cash at any time.
I listen to this every week, and Ray, you got to get your ass to the gym. We got training.
I know. I'll be there in a half hour. I'm hanging up as soon as you get off.
Yeah, we'll get him out.
Which is really an hour on Ray time.
No. This one's a half hour. I got a busy day today.
Matt, good luck, man.
Fun.
Matty, I'll see you in a little bit.
Later.
All right, there he is, Matt the Steamroller Frivola, with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. All right, Raymond, just figure we bring your guy in there. Anything else on that fight or anything else before we let you get to your business?
No, just he had a great camp, and I'm super excited to see him fight on Saturday night. He's just a really nice kid, and just what he said, like he really is in awe of just walking around seeing these guys. I think Aljos had the same conversation with him, like. They might be just excited to see you. Like, that's what people don't realize, right? Because, obviously I go through them. Like, there's nothing special here. You're better off wanting to meet somebody else, But he's just, it goes to show you what a nice kid he is. And I just wish him the best.
And we wish you the best. I will see you in a couple days.
And I wish you guys the best.
All right, thank you, buddy. Drive safely.
Thanks,
we'll talk to you next week. What?
And, I could have had you a table at Rayo's. If you had Wednesday night. That's a huge thing. Yeah, that's a huge thing. You put it
under Rogan, right? You tell him Joe Rogan's coming. You can't do anything. Yeah. Hey, thanks, buddy. Hey, have a great Sunday, okay? NFL starts 1 p.m. Eastern, all right?
All right, take it easy, guys.
If you think I'm done banging on Philadelphia, I'm not. I've been driving around for 10 days. Everybody's saying, oh, what a time to be a Philadelphia sports fan. The Eagles are 7-0 or 8-0. The Phillies are up 2-1 in the World Series. Well, it's Sunday, November 6th. The Phillies, and I love Bryce Harper, love his family, love his dad. Probably my favorite player in the big leagues. And I might have actually been rooting for the Phillies. But Phillies lost the World Series on Sunday. They lost the MLS Cup to LAFC, right? No Major League Soccer championship. And everybody wants to crown the Eagles in November. And Sean Brady still lost to Bilal Muhammad. So I don't know, man. Don't print the title. Well, I'm just saying, don't print the title town stuff yet.
You just went scorched earth on the city of Philadelphia just now.
When the Patriots and the Eagles played in their first Super Bowl against each other. I know the Eagles won the second one. Congratulations, go Birds, right? I went to college in Pennsylvania. But going into that first one, Christian Fourier, former Patriots tight end, told me this story. He's a former ESPN colleague of mine, now on WEEI Sports Radio in Boston. So he basically said that Belichick got the team together during Super Bowl week, and he put the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl parade route on a monitor, and he was like, I just want to let you guys know that the Eagles have their Super Bowl parade all set for Tuesday. They're going to go down Broad Street. Patriots players all laughing. Had a lot of championship parades, a lot of duck boats in Boston. We don't plan those, though, until the hay is in the proverbial barn, as they say. Just having fun with Philly. We don't have a lot of listeners in Philadelphia. So, all right, so we're going to spin it forward now to UFC 281. It's live from New York this Saturday, and you can get closer to the Octagon with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Right now, new customers can bet $5 on UFC 281 and get $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. And that, of course, is not all. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up parlays. You go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a parlay today with 3 or more picks, combine multiple bets like which fighter will win, total rounds, and much more. DraftKings Sportsbook application, I will tell you guys, is great. As easy to navigate as any, as many options in the sports betting space as anyone out there. And I expect UFC 281 to be as played as one of the biggest, most viewed cards of 2022. I know a lot of people who want action on both sides of the main event, and with payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is where you should go to bet on UFC. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code John Anik. Throw down $5 on UFC 281 and get $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. That is code John Anik, JONANIK, this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, main event challenge time as we call on Big Gun Brian Petrie. There are a couple of loose ends that I would like to tie up on UFC Fight Night before we dive in to the monster that is UFC 281. And by the way, I could have made these guys make 10 predictions today. They're picking 8 fights, so we're going pretty deep on the prelim portion. So you're going to get a lot of handicapping intel today from Ken Flo and from Brian Petrie. Just waiting on Petrie in the 3 box before I get into Daniel Rodriguez and Neil Magny. Good to see you, man. Happy Sunday.
What's
Happy
up?
Sunday.
Bengals, baby. Bengals, baby. We need it. We need it before the bye, Johnny. Johnny, you went scorched earth on Philly. If you go to Philly, you're getting batteries thrown at you, bro. You better be careful.
Well, when we go to Philadelphia, UFC puts us up in Delaware, so it's
Okay,
all good.
that makes sense. There you go.
Did I really go score? I'm just saying, though.
I
It's like
mean,
I'm
they-
driving around,
listen,
Brian.
yeah, sure.
And it's like you don't make room in the championship case for the
I hear
trophy
you.
until you, and you know.
I'm not
Astros win 3
disagreeing with you,
straight.
but
I mean,
Philly fans or Philadelphia they're brutal. They're next
All right.
level, man. They're tough.
I actually think Sean Brady's going to get back into a title fight. I'm a
Sure.
huge fan of his. Like,
Yeah.
I really, truly am. I believe in him, the work ethic, the skill set, all of it, you know?
Yeah,
But I'm a
right.
Boston guy who went to college in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
okay? And if people are going on vacation, are they going to Boston or Philadelphia? You tell me. Want to see the fucking
Now,
Liberty Bell?
I've never been to Philly, but I've been to Boston several times. So I mean, there you go.
All right.
They're coming to New
All right.
York, like the UFC next week.
Yeah, they're coming after me. All right, a couple of loose ends that I wanted to tie up. Shailon Nurdan-Beke, or whatever we pronounced it last week, over Derek Minner by TKO at 107 of round number 1. But there's some sort of gambling underbelly here, Brian Petrie. Can
happening.
you sort of alert the masses as to what's going on?
So he was plus 170 2 hours before the fight, 2 hours ish. And then it jumped up to plus 330 something. And then Shailin went up to minus 200 to minus 450. So someone knew the pre-existing injury going in a Minner. Minner had that knee injury before going in. That's been made clear. So someone put a hefty bag on Shailin a couple hours before the fight. And that, I think there's going to be some kind of investigation. They were just talking about that one Korean fighter or Chinese fighter, Bang. He went to jail for 10 months for trying to fix fights. I'm not saying there's a fix fighting here, but camps talk. And we just went through the whole UFC's not letting but fighters bet anymore, right? We went through that whole thing.
Yeah.
So this is just, listen, I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying my eyes are up because I track these things.
Wow.
And you never see a spike like this an hour or two before a fight. Like, it was insane. I'm like, and I had Shailin in my parlay. I can't live bet, so it's whatever. I had him in my parlay, and I was like, and my buddies are texting me like, hey, dude, Minner first round submission. I go, I don't know about that. Look at this. I showed him the chart. It's weird, man. It's something's going on there.
Right.
Eyes are open. Yeah.
Brian, what kind of a bet would it take to jump the line that much? Like, what are we talking here? Do you know?
I mean, yeah. See, look at that spike. I really don't know. It was substantial. It really depends on what the money
Like tens of thousands? Tens of
Could have been.
thousands?
Yeah, could have been. It
Really?
could have been. I mean, we're not looking at a couple $100 here. We're looking at probably a couple thousand for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That spike is. That's insane. I mean, you don't see that ever, and especially 2 hours before the guy fights. Like, so Again, nope, not pointing fingers. A lot of people online are pointing fingers, but there's some suspicious shit going on right there. That's for sure.
I'm glad I asked. And if it wasn't an NFL Sunday, I'd probably get off the air and go down a rabbit hole and try to dive into all.
I was last night. I was on Reddit last night. Bad mistake.
I didn't even see the fight. You're breaking the news to me now that Darren Minner had a knee injury. You know what I was doing this morning? I watched the two kickboxing matches between Israel Adesanya and Alexa Pereira, and I don't know if there's really much fruit there.
Sure.
Before we move on, and Ken Flo, feel free to chime in. Just wanted to touch on the co-main event, Neil Magny over Daniel Rodriguez by submission. We acknowledge Neil for passing George St. Pierre, more UFC welterweight wins than anybody in the illustrious history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is just insane. You could argue certainly a missed opportunity on the other side for D-Rod. Any thoughts on the co-main, BP, before we spin it forward?
I mean, Neil did what Neil does. I mean, Kenny and I text like, I can't predict this guy's fight. You just can't do it. He looked grimy. My biggest takeaway is, why is D-Rod, who's leaning at will at range, clinching? He initiated several clinches. And I'm like, I mean, I know that's like part of your game. You're crashing in with some of your punches, but I don't know about that. He obviously got tired in that third round, and Neil Magny just doesn't get tired. That's just his thing. Like, he just doesn't. And I'm happy for Neil. It's a crazy record that Neil Magny holds the most wins. And no disrespect to Neil Magny, when you think of welterweight greats, George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, Kamaru Usman now, and Neil Magny's above all of them in that statistic. So it's just pretty fun. But I mean, listen, I lost money on D-Rod. I was very confident in D-Rod. It was a odd fight, and again, I can't get a Neil Magny fight right. That guy's gonna burn me every time.
There are varying degrees in terms of how attached to singular results some of these fighters are, and certainly some of these fighters aren't as championship driven as others. Now, I'm not saying that D-Rod is not championship driven, but when I see what he says sort of after the fact, he strikes me as a guy who is going to move on and move on well from this. But I don't know. I just think that everything in certain fighters' careers is calculated when it comes to taking certain fights and abbreviated training camps and trying to put yourself in position. This is a legitimate championship setback for D-Rod, and I'm not sure he cares as much as maybe somebody like you or his fan base does right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's 35 too, and he came in late, so he doesn't have as many miles on him. But yeah, this is an ugly loss for him, I think.
All right, let us get into the picks for UFC 281, Adesanya versus Pereira. First prelim for us will be at flyweight. 12th ranked Aaron Blanchfield, minus 380. It's a big number, Bri. 15th ranked Molly McCann comes back at plus 310. McCann has won 3 in a row. They've all produced bonuses. She's got to deal with Barstool Sports, but it's so much more than that. I mean, this is an evolved fighter. Your thoughts on her here in a big spot, at least the odds makers and the betting public to this point, not giving McCann much of a shot.
Yeah, sorry, I had to throw on a hat. My Elvis Wayne Newton hair was really
I actually was really liking it. I mean, all natural.
It was high. Yeah, I got a thick head of hair. It was way,
you know how John gets with hair.
I know. I threw the hat on. I was like, I had it next to me. Fuck it. Anyway, this fight's great. Listen, how do you not love Meatball? The Barstool signing's great because she's getting out there. She's got personality for days. Not to mention, she started her UFC career a little rough. Not the most exciting fighter. She won some, lost 2 in a row, and is rattling off wins. And she's coming off 2 incredible knockouts. I mean, her boxing is great. Her cardio's great. She's at a grappler's gym with Patty over there in Liverpool. But listen, Aaron Blanchfield's a fucking stud. I mean, this girl, 23 years old. Yeah. She's so good. Cardio on point. She's tough. And her grappling, I think, is going to be the edge here. I mean, Blanchfield, it's a huge number. And I don't play 23-year-old fighters at this huge number. I just can't do it. But I like maybe Blanchfield by decision. I think this is a bad matchup for Molly McCann. It hurts my heart picking against her. I think she's a live dog because we haven't seen enough from Blanchfield yet, and this is a big test. And when you're 23, you could break, and Molly's not going to fucking break. So Molly is a live dog, especially at this number. It's gorgeous, but I really am high on Blanchfield, especially what she did to Miranda Maverick and how good Miranda Maverick looked last week. I'm going to go Blanchfield by decision.
And you're trying to pick winners. Blanchfield hugely favored here. Yeah. As Brian mentioned, Kenny, 23 years old, won the Eddie Bravo Invitational at 18. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. New Jersey versus Liverpool. Which way you going?
This is the new generation of fighters that we're getting now, right, guys? It's kids that start out training in jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. I think by 12, Erin knew that she wanted to be a professional fighter. At 12 years old, like, get out of here. That's insane, So that's tough for someone like Molly who doesn't have that same level of martial arts experience. However, Molly is a problem, and I think she is going to be a problem on the feet. It's going to come down to her ability to be efficient. You need Erin to not be very efficient, maybe expend a lot of energy on takedowns and things like that, and then get caught, maybe lose confidence because she doesn't have, a ton of MMA experience. That's Molly's best bet. She could pull it off. It's definitely not out of the question at all. I do think there's some value there with Molly, but it's hard to go against some like Erin, who's so young and has so much skill.
Yeah.
All right, next prelim BP, big fight at lightweight here, or at light heavyweight, I should say. Former world title challenger, 7th-ranked Dominic Reyes, minus 215 or so. Number 12, Ryan Spann, plus 185. Spann with some momentum now. He's won 2 of 3, a couple of quick finishes in there. Looks like he's entering his prime at 31. Reyes is 32, as you guys know, now training in Danbury, Connecticut, alongside Glover Teixeira. Maybe a little bit wider than I expected. I had written down Reyes minus 180. He's minus 215. Yep. How do you see this one playing out, Bri, at 205 pounds?
Yeah, the line paused me because maybe I'm discrediting Spann, but he's 6-2 in the UFC, which is crazy. He's got big power and he's got a dangerous guillotine too. That gilly is tight. And you got Reyes coming off 3 straight losses, but against some elite competition, right? So you kind of give him a pass over the guys he's lost to. But regardless of competition, this is a must-win for him. So when I first saw this fight lined up, I go, oh, this is kind of like they want Reyes to win, right? Because this is a guy that people still to this day thought beat John Jones. He's got the athletic background. He's, marketable. But then when I dug deeper into it, I'm like, man, Ryan Spann is not this guy who I'm capping him to be. So I really kind of got in the weeds in this fight. And the one thing I came to conclusion is I don't like it because the line is too wide for me. Like you said, John, I'm going to pick Reyes. I'm not confident. I think both guys are explosive, but I like Reyes' straight punches as opposed to Ryan Spann's looping punches. Reyes is going to get to the target first. And I'm really curious to see if it hits the mat. With him training with Glover, to me, it seems like he's going to be working on maybe some takedowns, some top control, some top pressure, which is what Glover's forte is. So I'm really interested to see if it hits the mat because I think Ryan Spann is dangerous there as well. But give me Reyes by decision. I don't love it, though. I have other fights I love. Sorry, but I don't love this fight.
So I thought for years that Kenny was maybe mispronouncing Dominic Reyes, and sure as shit, Ken Flo, you were right the whole time. Cody has the file. I don't know if we even want to rack it, but I had to before we picked another Dominic Reyes fight because he hasn't fought since May of 2021. The knockout loss to Yuri Prochazka, no doubter for fight of the night. But yeah. Kenny almost has this Peruvian like Reyes or whatever the fuck he says. And shit if he isn't right. Cody, do you have that file by chance?
Of course.
Dominic the Devastator Reyes. Dominic the Devastator Reyes.
All right, well, Ken Flo's the man. What else? The big show for Team Florian today. Kenny, I think you're muted, but who do you have winning this fight?
Thank you. Dominic Reyes, I think you look at his last 3 fights, they've all been to champions. John Jones, Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prochazka. I mean, that's tough to deal with. So he certainly has faced the higher level of competition. I don't know how that's affected his confidence and his training. Sometimes it's like, lost 3 in a row. I'm never going to make it back. Screw this. Let me just fight for a paycheck now. That could happen. I don't think that's going to be the case here, but it could be the case. Ryan Spann is going to be a dangerous out. He's a guy that is good at finishing fights. Does he have solid enough fundamentals to back up that danger? I'm not quite so sure because when it breaks down for him, it breaks down big time. And a guy like Dominic Reyes is the kind of guy that can take advantage of those breakdowns and expose you. So I think Reyes is a little bit more fundamentally sound. I also think he's still dangerous. It might take him a little bit to kind of get into his groove in this fight, but I'll take Dominic here.
And I will say the General Saif Saud, head coach at Fortis MMA, is one of the people I'm probably closest with in the MMA space. And Ryan seems to have turned a corner mentally, and there's an urgency about him in training and otherwise that did not exist prior. So perhaps that factors into your handicap as well. All right, featured prelim Bettable fight here, I would think, Brian, lightweight. Renato Moicano minus 125. Brad Quake Riddell plus 105. Huge fight for both guys. You know, Riddell had risen to as high as, I think, number 11 in the world. Unranked now after the back-to-back losses to Rafael Fiziev and Jalen Turner. Those guys now number 6 and number 10 in the world, respectively. So not much loss there. Your thoughts on Riddell, slightly the dog here against Renato Moicano?
Ohio sports betting can't come soon enough because I would be hammering this line right now. I like Riddell in this spot big time, plus money. It's probably going to be a pick 'em, maybe even he'll close as a small favorite. Moicano has a really nice second run here at 155, right? The RDA fight he took on short notice, showed his toughness, very impressive, showed it all his heart, but he struggles with dynamic strikers. It's his calling card. Aldo, Zombie, Fiziev, they all knocked him out. Clean, right? And Riddell is a clean striker with above average takedown defense at 62%. He's cardio's good, and he's been in camp with his dogs. He's been in camp with Carlos Ulberg. He's been in camp with Dan Hooker. Been in camp with Izzy Adesanya. He's in shape. Like, he's ready to go. And when you're giving me plus money, I love it. I like Riddell here, and I'm going to add KO to my card as well. Possibly early when Connor's tough and dangerous on the ground. If he gets to the ground, he gets his back, it's going to be a problem. But give me Riddell by KO. I'm loving it.
All I know is that if Brad Riddell stood in front of me, hands behind his back, and let me punch him in the face as hard as I could, I wouldn't knock him out. Not on the first try, that's for sure. So Brian mentioned the Moicano Rafael dos Anjos fight, Kenny. Sort of a weird 5-round co-main event at UFC 272 back in March. Moicano exuded a lot of toughness, as he has done throughout 13 fights in the UFC. Your thoughts on him here? A slight favorite over Brad Riddell.
Yeah, to Brian's point, I think more than anything else, I think Moicano struggles with guys that are faster than him. It's the shots he doesn't really see. I don't think that was an issue for him in the RDA fight. RDA doesn't have the speed of some of those other guys, so he could at least see those shots coming. And I think on the ground is real. He was kind of struggling a little bit there against RDA, but in this fight against Brad, this is a tough one for me. I do think Brad will most likely win. I think Brad has the ability to finish this fight. Moicano can, but it's just weird the way that they match up against each other. I think Riddell's speed is going to be a problem. The problem with Riddell is he gets caught up just fighting. Like it almost becomes this street fight where he's not really listening to his corner. He's not listening to anybody. He's caught in the moment and just trying to knock your head off. I still think that's going to be good enough against someone like Moicano, just because Moicano makes some mistakes on the feet, which makes him vulnerable to that style. But it's going to be tough for him as he kind of steps up. But give me Riddell here as well.
All right, before we get into the pay-per-view main card, Kenny, were you looking for some clarification on Chris Tognoni, the referee, as to how we're pronouncing his name? It seemed like there was some chat between you guys.
Yeah, I was laughing about it just because, you guys will always pronounce his name as Tognoni, and then I think Bruce says something different. Am I incorrect on that?
A lot of us are on different pages when it comes to Chris Tognoni. I don't know how many of us have sought him out.
And just laughed. Yeah.
I mean, if my pits weren't stained right now, I'd say raise your hand if you have actually sought Chris out to get to the bottom of it, because I have. Right. So it's Tognoni, but he has been ubiquitously referred to as Chris Taioni for so long that he's okay if people don't go with the correct Italian pronunciation, but it is Chris Tognoni, and Buffer and I will keep agreeing to disagree. All right, pay-per-view opener, Dan Hooker minus 155, Claudio Puelles plus 135. So Hooker back to lightweight. He had that slip up against Arnold Allen, if you want to call it that, at featherweight in March. 20th UFC fight for the Hangman. Kenny was in the building for his UFC debut in Auckland back in 2014. On the other side, Puelles has won 5 in a row, unbeaten dating to 2016. He has been on this podcast. He is still only 26 years old. But, Bri, make no mistake about it, right? Yeah. Moments like this don't necessarily come around again, whether you're 26 or 36.
Sure.
Big moment for Claudio Puelles. Will the Peruvian Prince seize it or not?
I couldn't agree more. This is a huge fight, regardless of Dan Hooker being 1-4 in his last 5. He's got a big name. He's fought the who's who. Didn't look good in the Arnold fight, but he shouldn't have no business being at 145. And he's a big kid. Puelles, so this 5-1 UFC dog walked Jordan Levitt. How do you feel about Jordan Levitt? Took Brutzmacher's leg home. Took Clay Guida's leg home. This kid's slick on the ground. That Clay Guida knee bar was so quick and fast. Super impressive by him. The Levin fight, he had top control. He had good takedowns for a guy not coming from wrestling. And each time I've seen him fight, I've watched all his fights in UFC, his stand-up is increasingly getting better. And he's a big kid, too. He's going to match size with Hooker. I'm actually surprised by the line. I thought Hooker might have been a dog here, and I was willing to take that Hooker shot. But Claudio's been on this podcast. The time is now. I think he literally needs to win this fight it's early and I don't want to overstate it, but this is a big fight for him for sure. And Claudio's been on this podcast, and guys that have been on this podcast stay winning, baby. They stay winning. Frivola's going to win. I already got the steamroller locked up. So give me Claudio here. I think by sub as well. I think Dan Hooker's all camp is the ground is lava. The ground is lava. Don't go there. But in these wild transitions, regardless of takedown or not, he can lock something up. So I like Claudio here for sure.
If my deodorant was working, Ken Flo, I would grab what was my parting gift when I left ESPN in 2011. Right now, it is an MMA Live collage, and it has this MMA Live curse. And it's the opposite of what you're saying. And for a podcast, guys are winning. But there was a time, as Kenny knows, where Miguel Torres, Rashad Evans, Stephan Bonner, everybody who we had on our show was losing, except actually your boy Flo. But there was a time where basically anybody we had on MMA Live was losing. Kenny, your father, Dr. Florian, is listening. You come from a Peruvian family. I know you love both of these guys, but we're going to need a pick. Is it going to be Dan Hooker or Lima Peru's Claudio Puelles?
Oh, man. Listen, I think that Dan Hooker is the kind of guy that has struggled as of late because he hasn't made changes in his game. And that can be very problematic for fighters in this game because everyone's studying, right? The coaches, the fighters, all that stuff. From what I hear, Dan has changed up a lot of things, has acknowledged that he's had some weaknesses and is trying to make things better. I assume he's going to be better. I think if we see the Dan Hooker that we've seen in previous fights, I think Claudio wins this fight. This is going to be a tough fight for him. I still think Claudio wins this fight, but it's not going to be easy. This is a huge step up for him. When you're talking about experience, that matters. Skill-wise, I think Claudio matches him skill-wise. No question about it, but experience absolutely matters. So I think this is a huge fight for Claudio to see how far he's come, right, since he first came into the UFC. Dan Hooker is a tough out for anybody. I think he's tough on the ground. He's tough on the feet. But for Claudio, he's going to have to mix everything up and really be very clean in this fight. I'm going to go with Claudio as well. Unfortunately, BP and I are kind of going tit for tat here. We're just kind of picking the same fights. But, I like Claudio here. One thing, John, I would say this. I would ask Claudio, again, I know the Saudi, about the pronunciation of his name because I think it might be Puelles. Puelles, not Puelles.
Yeah, so it is more of a poi than a poo. You're right. Claudio
I would check on Puelles. But, obviously there's different accents and stuff like that. But I would ask Claudio one more time on that.
Yeah, we will.
If he was from Philly, it'd be poo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, as I am setting up this next fight, I want you guys to come up with a guess as to how much total octagon time Frankie Edgar has had, okay?
Oh, my gosh.
No man nor woman has as much octagon time as Frankie Edgar. He has spent a shit ton of time inside those 8 walls. At bantamweight, folks, Chris Gutierrez minus 205, 12th ranked Frankie Edgar plus 175. In all likelihood, this is the retirement fight for the tri-state area native and New Jersey Toms River guy, Frankie Edgar. He made his UFC debut 2 years after Ken Flo did, UFC 67. That was February 3rd, 2007. He beat Tyson Griffin that night, took his O, actually. Now UFC start number 30 for the man with more accrued octagon time than anyone ever. Bri, how much octagon time for Frankie, and then we'll need a pick.
I'm gonna go. Oh man, I think I want to. I'm gonna go low ball. Price Right rules. I'm gonna go like 4 hours and 47 minutes.
All right, now for your prediction, sir.
Yeah, the answer: Frankie Edgar, FV strong, baby. I love Frankie Edgar. Listen, I was a BJ Penn guy coming up as a fan, and when he lost in Abu Dhabi, or he beat BJ Penn at UFC 112 in Abu Dhabi, I was very upset because I thought BJ won that fight. Lo and behold, Frankie became one of my favorite fighters because undersized. Those Gray Maynard fights were unbelievable. This guy seems like a great father, great dad. He's never had out of the cage trouble. You know what I mean? And Frankie, I hope he rides off to the sunset happy. We well deserved, one of the best in the sport. As far as the matchup goes, I think it's a pretty good matchup for him. Is a swan song here. Chris Gutierrez, undefeated in the UFC, great striker, calf kicks her son of a bitch. His spinning attacks, he doesn't span them all that much. He sets them up really well. He knocked out Donna Baccarao in Columbus, which was a great setup. You know, I saw that live. And, you know, his takedown offense is 73%, but he hasn't really been in there with pure grapplers. And Frankie has to wrestle. He can't fuck around. You know, in the Cheeto fight, Frankie was looking pretty good, so he got kicked in the head, but that's kind of Cheeto's thing. Frankie needs to wrestle here. Frankie needs to put him on his back. Frankie's ground and pound on top, cutting to that guard, and even staying in the guard has been really good throughout his career. I mean, he butchered Yair Rodriguez a few years ago, even, you know, Charles Oliveira a few years ago as well. Frankie needs to kind of go old school here and just wrestle because he's that good. But I'm worried about the KOs. 3 of his 5 losses have been like ugly KOs, and I'm talking ugly, boys. But, and there's always a but, is MSG. I'm not picking against Frankie Edgar and MSG. Tom's River, tough. Give me Frankie Edgar by decision. Nice little dog number there, too. Give me Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, plus 175 on the money line, and certainly sweeter than that to win by decision, albeit probably not much higher than 225 or so, but maybe. On the other side, you have Chris Gutierrez, Factory X. How is he not ranked, right? Lost his debut in 2018. Since he is 6-0-1, won 3 in a row, certainly going to be ranked and have that number next to his name should he come through as the favorite here. Ken Flo, total octagon time for Frankie Edgar, and who wins the fight?
Gosh, 5 hours?
All right, ready for this, guys? 7 hours and 55 minutes and 9 seconds. He'll pass 8 hours if this one hits the second round.
That's crazy.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Almost
way off.
8 hours, man. Ken Flo,
damn.
Your thoughts on
beast.
Gutierrez and Edgar, and ultimately whose hand will be raised?
Gutierrez is tough, man. Certainly this is the biggest name he's faced, no question about it. Frankie, of course, in his last fight here, but I agree with Brian. He's got to take him down. I think if he's able to do that, he can either control him or potentially grind him out for a TKO win, maybe a little bit later in the fight. That's, I think, his best bet, just to be positionally sound, set up his takedowns properly, and hit him. So if Frankie's able to do that, I think he wins this fight. Chris is going to be dangerous on the feet, no question about it. His speed could be a problem for Frankie, his feints. But I like Frankie here as well, man. It's hard for me to cheer against a guy who's been fighting since my generation, right? And who's accomplished all these things in the sport, things that I haven't done, accruing almost 8 hours of fight time now. That's insane. That level of durability and reliability and consistency is just nuts to me. I think the legend gets it done here. I would love to see him know it. I don't know Chris. It's not against Chris, but again, to see Frankie go out on these kind of terms at MSG would be tremendous.
Yeah.
New York News, they asked me for a quote this week, and I said, there was a time when it felt like he was like the most beloved American mixed martial arts athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not since Chuck Liddell was an American fighter as revered as Frankie was there for a time, and certainly
our version of Rocky.
Yeah, you're right.
For sure.
In the UFC Hall of Fame, shortly after his career is all said and done. All right, as the Islam Makhachev era gets underway, I enjoyed saying that. Let us get to this featured bout at lightweight. Now, it seems that there are rumblings that the promotion isn't necessarily hell-bent on making a fight between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski in Perth come mid-February. Perhaps the next championship opportunity goes to the winner here. Dustin Poirier, minus 175. Michael Chandler, plus 150. 3 rounds, not 5. Seems to be some misinformation out there. My fight card says 3. Poirier, former UFC interim lightweight champion, maybe seemed to take issue with the fact that Chandler got fast-tracked upon arrival in the UFC. At least from my vantage point, that appears to be the genesis of the friction. But of course, more importantly, this is a huge fight, as anticipated as any in 2022. And little curveball, we're going to lead with Ken Flo. You going Poirier or Chandler under the lights at Madison Square Garden in 6 days?
So both these guys have had a history of being involved in some crazy fights. I think that with Dustin, he's a little bit more consistent as far as his ability to stick to a plan and look for a way to win. Michael Chandler is enchanted with entertaining. And that doesn't always equal success, right, at the highest levels in mixed martial arts. There's just so much going on. There's so many ways to make a mistake out there. Chandler is just a little bit too much of a wild card. Awesome to watch him fight. He's exciting as hell. I love his attitude. I think the dude's an absolute beast. For Dustin Poirier, though, I think he's going to be a little bit more fundamentally sound. He's not going to be as emotionally charged heading into this fight. Has also proven to be extremely durable. This is going to be an awesome fight. This was a classic when it was announced. But I like Dustin here. I think he's going to be a little bit more durable, a little bit smarter in his execution here.
You put it masterfully as usual, and I wrote down enchanted with entertaining because this enchantment with entertainment for Chandler has lined his pockets, right? So there is some cerebral sense in it, Kenny, right? And certainly on the heels of the Tony Ferguson knockout, if he finishes Dustin Poirier, and I don't think this fight is going the distance, by the way, which is probably the minority opinion, but if Michael Chandler finishes Dustin Poirier, he's probably going to get a title fight. So I agree with you that he does seem enchanted with entertaining, even at times when he should not be. I have no idea which way this one goes, Bri. What's your expert opinion?
It's a banger with a capital bang, boys. Oh, my gosh. Listen, I don't know if this fight gets out of the first round. Both these guys get after it. Chandler's explosive and leads the dance, and Poirier is such a good counterpuncher. His left hand is sniping, and I think his best punch is his counter check hook, his check right hook, what he hit Conor with, what he hits a lot of guys with. But Chandler gets hit a lot and proven that, Chandler does get hit a lot and Poirier's proven that you don't want to get hit by him. The X factor is the wrestling. Let's not forget that Michael Chandler, even though this is MSG, even though he cuts a hell of a promo after the fight, this kid can wrestle. His power double leg is superb. And when he was in Bellator, a lot of times when his back was against the wall, he leaned on the wrestling, that Mizzou wrestling. And I think he's coming in shape. I think he's prepared for this. I don't know if he went to Florida for this camp. I think he stayed in Nashville the entire time, and I think he's just grinding wrestling. So I like that. I like that he needs to wrestle here. So I have written down Poirier because I think Poirier is too much of a sniper. However, I'm not going to keep picking with Kenny. This fight to me is a really good value play with Chandler. I think Chandler can wrestle. I think he has a big power here. Poirier, they've been making a lot of big deal about how Poirier's never lost 2 in a row or something like that. I think that's Jinx talking right there. Give me Michael Chandler. Let's mix it up, babe. I like Michael Chandler here to blow the roof off. And selfishly, I think Michael Chandler matches up better with Islam than Poirier did because I feel like we've seen that with the Khabib fight.
Yeah, fair. Nicely done, Bri. All right, let's get to the co-headliners. Zhang Weili, minus 340. Carla Esparza, plus 280, as she makes this first title defense of her second reign as champion. As many of you know, Zhang Weili won the belt in 2019, defended it in 2020, lost it in 2021, then lost a second time to Rose Namajunas before a sensational knockout of Joanna Jędrzejczyk at UFC 275 in Singapore. That laid the foundation for her to get the throne back. You think she gets by Carla? Certainly the odds makers and the betting public to this point expect Zhang Weili to come through.
Yeah, what jumps out of me is this why. And Carla typically gets disrespected by Vegas. She's always the underdog, it seems like, and she always pulls out the win. I don't want to disrespect Carla, 2-time champion, unbelievable fighter. I know her last fight with Rose was very pedestrian. Let's all forget about that. But Zhang Weili is a freak. Did you see her single leg Ngannou and pick him up over his head? It was a 115-pound woman who is not only getting better, but getting more confident with her move out to Arizona. She looked incredibly impressive over Joanna. No one's ever done that over Joanna besides Rose at one time. And then on the Rose fight, she really made improvements, and it was a very close fight. I mean, a lot of people could say she won. And I hate disrespecting Carla because I like her. I respect her. She's great. I don't think she sniffs a takedown over Zhang Weili here. I don't think she's going to be able to hang on the feet. I like Zhang Weili big here. I like her by KO and new, baby, and new.
Yeah, Ken Flo, it's an interesting one. Certainly Carla Esparza is the Menlo College scholarship wrestler and that has certainly been her bread and butter in the UFC. I did think she beat Rose Namajunas in what was one of the more listless UFC championship fights of all time. But Zhang Weili right now is minus 340. I wouldn't be surprised to see this close north of minus 400. The experts seem to be aligned on Zhang Weili in a big way. Are you on that side as well?
I am. I think that, Carla has one way to win, and it's going to be 25 minutes of taking her down repeatedly. She's not known for having tremendous TKO power. I don't think she's good enough submission-wise yet to be a problem for Zhang Weili, who has been improving her grappling skills significantly. I think that speed and power is going to be the biggest difference here in this fight. Zhang Weili has all of that. I think Carla's not quite prepared for the level of speed. And the fact that, again, Zhang is training with a lot of high-level wrestlers, training with Cejudo and all those people over there. She not only for this fight is it the right choice, but it's for the right choice for her career moving forward. So I think Zhang Weili gets it done, and she gets that belt.
All right, let us get to the main event for the Undisputed UFC Middleweight Championship. I have waited for this moment on this show since this fight was announced. I'm just going to lay out and listen to you guys. Israel Adesanya, right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 170. Alex Pereira, plus 145. The kickboxing meetings were in 2016 in China. That fight went the distance, 29-28 times 3 to Pereira. Rematch, March of 2017, with a Sao Paulo, Brazil backdrop. Left hook in round 3 for the knockout for Pereira. No, it wasn't a left hook, was it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a left hook. All right. Bri?
Yeah.
I'm going to have you lead here.
Yes, do it.
Adesanya, Pereira. Which way you go?
All right. I've seen this before. I mean, it's over the top. It's Stallone action. This fight warrants it. This fight warrants it. I am jacked to the tits for this fight. I've wanted this fight since Adesanya signed the UFC. I don't follow kickboxing as much as I should, but I knew about this rivalry, right? I watched the first 2 fights several times, right? First fight, I thought Izzy actually won. I thought he had the bigger moments, but, I don't score kickboxing. Second fight, he was winning. And then fucking that Thanos gauntlet left hook of Alex Pereira will make you disappear, and that's exactly what happened to Izzy. Now, Izzy comes into MMA, and he's killing it, and everyone's like, oh, well, Pereira doesn't deserve it. He's 3-0 in the UFC, just knocked out Sean Strickland, who's undefeated at 185 pounds, and he's got 2 wins over him in kickboxing with all his credentials. Yeah, he's earned it, okay? Pipe down, people. He's earned this shot. This is what we all want to see, right? Izzy's had a problem with 2 guys in the UFC. Kelvin Gastelum, which was an absolute dog war, and Jan Blachowicz with that weird style. Other than that, he controls fights. I don't know if he's gonna be able to do that against Pereira here, because Pereira is such a good elite kickboxer. Kickboxing stand-up is a little bit different than MMA stand-up. There's different rhythms to it. I think Izzy has mastered the rhythm of MMA kickboxing because MMA fighting, because he's been in it longer more. But Pereira has that game changer with the left hook. I'm going to take Izzy here. I love Izzy Adesanya. I think he's fundamentally better. I think, we could possibly see a takedown. If I can't say it with a straight face, but you never know. But I'm going to take Izzy here because I just think there's a pride and ego thing with him going 0-2. And I could spend another 2 hours on this fight because I'm so excited for it. But I'm not going to feel confident. I am going to do a hefty bet because Izzy is my guy. And I'm going to be sweating the whole time because even with 2 seconds left in that 5th round, that fucking left hand can come out of nowhere. But I like Izzy just being able to control it a little more. Michael Bisping thinks that it's going to be a little more aggressive. Izzy going to get after it. I don't know if I see a finish happening. I just see Izzy being a little bit more careful, picking him apart, picking his spots. I think he has a speed advantage. The only issue is sometimes in MMA, and Kenny's going to talk about this, I've heard him say it before, Izzy, when he gets out of the pocket, his chin is up in the air. And that's kind of what happened to Sean Strickland when he got caught with the left hook. I'm going to shut up now because I want to hear what Kenny says. Izzy by decision is my official call.
Ken, Phil, the last style bender, Israel Adesanya, really thrives under pressure, but he has put a lot of it on himself in the lead up to this fight, saying, this is the fight that I've got to have. And who knows exactly what happened in terms of the end of his kickboxing career and when he went full throttle into MMA, but Adesanya has never been finished in mixed martial arts. He has been wildly successful as a middleweight. Pereira was submitted in his pro MMA debut. Now, he wasn't all in MMA at that time, but he's won 6 in a row, a 3-0 start in the UFC, has vaulted him into this championship setting against Adesanya. It's a huge fight in terms of legacy and fan appeal. I'm dying to know which way you're going. Pereira, Adesanya, who wins the middleweight title?
Yeah, so when you look at kickboxing, there's just not the level of kickboxing, especially in the higher weight classes. Once you get to about welterweight and above, in my opinion, it's not so high level. And it doesn't mean it's not impressive, but when you think about the greatest Muay Thai fighters, kickboxers, for me, as far as high level technique, you're talking about the lighter weight classes. And then I think, as we talked about at the beginning of this show, you can throw out those kickboxing fights. I don't think that really means anything. Where it might mean something is, does Israel get too emotionally charged and, get too fired up and get away from his game plan? I don't think that's going to happen here. Let's look at their last few fights in mixed martial arts in the UFC. All right. So we have Andreas Michailidis. You know that guy, right? Bruno Silva. And then Sean Strickland. Mm-hmm. Now let's compare just like, I don't know, let's go last three fights for Izzy. Jared Cannonier, Robert Whittaker, Marvin Vettori. Let's keep going. Jan Blachowicz, Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker again, Kelvin Gastelum, Anderson Silva, Derek Brunson, Brad Tavares, Marvin Vettori again. The level of competition, you can't even compare. Now, Herrera, is he a knockout threat even against someone like Israel Adesanya? There's no question in my mind that if he lands that nasty left hook, he can put Israel Adesanya out. I've seen a seriousness and a respect on the face of Israel Adesanya that I have not seen in a very long time. He's not trying to clown around. He's not trying to, show off or talk shit. He has been all business. This has been like the most business-like I've seen him since maybe his first couple fights in the UFC. He's taking this with a level of seriousness that is significant. Now, that all means nothing at the end of the day. Let's talk about some of the technique stuff. Israel Adesanya's footwork is going to be a problem for Alex Pereira. That's why I think Pereira is trying to get in Izzy's head. He wants Izzy to stand in front of him. If Izzy stands in front of him, if any man stands in front of Alex Pereira, you will get knocked out. Izzy has to move his feet, show a lot of lateral movement, stick and move. For Izzy to win this fight, he's going to have to be perfect for all 25 minutes. I don't think can Izzy knock him out? Maybe with a counter shot, maybe he TKOs him. I don't really see that happening. Izzy's going to have to be perfect for 25 minutes. That's where I think that focus and understanding is coming with Izzy. Like, that's why he's coming into this fight very serious. He understands he has to be perfect for 25 minutes. Herrera has to be perfect just for like 1 second. He needs one shot, right? Which is fine, well and dandy, but when you look at the level of competition that Izzy has faced, a lot of knockout punchers with, decent footwork, all that stuff, I think Izzy knows how to stay disciplined during a fight. And I think he understands the gravity of this one and how serious this one is. Pereira is a big-time threat. But I think where Pereira is going to struggle is with his footwork. He's a little too flat-footed for me to go, hey, this is a guy that is absolutely going to knock out Adesanya. Can he? Potentially. But for me, it's not a strong enough conviction based on his footwork, based on his style, and based on his level of competition in the UFC for me to say he's the guy that beats Izzy. So I like Izzy here. I think it's going to be tough. But I think he gets it done. I don't know if it's going to be the most exciting fight on his part, but I think Izzy wins this.
Do you predict that grappling will be involved in the fight or minimally?
I think minimally.
Okay.
No.
I don't think either guys really want to be there too much. I hear Pereira's grappling is not to be underestimated. And I think Adesanya has been improving those skills tremendously. Maybe we see a takedown. Maybe we see some control, ground and pound. But I don't think either one of those guys are heading into this fight thinking, I'm going to take this fight to the ground because I can submit that other guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's my sense.
All right, if you want more from our handicapper, Brian Petrie, at Brian Petrie MMA on Twitter, and of course his MMA Takes podcast, Locked and Loaded. Sorry about the Super Slime Ball parlay, man. It looked pretty good.
It was, 20 seconds away. I would have had a dead dog loser anyway because I went heavy on Marina Rodriguez, but it would have been nice to give us a winner for the people. But, hey, listen, that's why the UFC and MMA is great. We're rebounding this week. 14 fights, 14 winners. Let's go.
Talk to you next Sunday, my man.
I'll see you, boys.
UFC 281. There he is, Brian Petrie, with us for the main event challenge. All right, before we get on out of here, it is time for the Mero Seconds. And Cody is clean shaven. He's got the gold VMG t-shirt. You got to send me one of those. That is tight, Veracity Media Group. So I believe you have already given out an NFL prediction for week 9, and the games have yet to be played. So are you going to give another one, or are you just going to remind us the pick you gave out on last week's show?
I'm just going to remind you about the one last week because obviously we got games coming. And then when you're in town next weekend with your brother, we'll put it up on your story so that the fans can fade the Cody cover for the next week.
What
feasibly our show will be Sunday morning.
Play?
The play is Vikings -3.5.
Okay, Vikings -3.5 at the Washington Commanders.
Correct.
All right.
The soon-to-be Jeff Bezos owned Washington Commanders.
All right, so I didn't have my best show today. I had to have left out several things. What did you lead up?
John, your worst is most people's best, so I wouldn't be too hard on yourself there.
Thanks.
Bonuses at UFC's Vegas 64 went to Neil Magny for his win over D-Rod, which put him ahead of GSP, of course, with the UFC welterweight wins. Mario Batista for his triangle armbar submission win. Poliana Viana for her brutal KO at Jin Yu Fry. And then Tamides Vidal for her jumping knee stoppage. Did I get that one right? Was that close?
Yep. Nice job with the bonuses too. Nice to see Neil Magny get one, and Poliana Viana.
Nice to shine a little shine.
And Mario Bautista is a really good, humble kid, and not a lot of triangle arm bars in the illustrious history of the UFC.
No. So we had Frivola on the show obviously today, so good luck to Maddie next week. Can't wait for that walkout. But I wanted to draw attention to his Tapology profile pic. I just thought that was worth bringing up.
Amazing.
So if he could walk out to that with the trumpets, I think that would be a very good good play for him.
And if you're only listening to the show, it's Frivola in like a winter jacket, no shirt, and some fancy hat.
A cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Fancy hat. Of course, it's a cowboy hat. So a little bit of PFL news. PFL recently launched and announced the Fast channel, 24/7 fights. You can watch PFL at any hour. So if you're sitting there, you can't sleep, John. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. You've gone to all your other vices and can't go to sleep. You want some Ken Flow? You turn into the PFL Fast channel 24/7. You can get Ken Flow anytime.
Oh gosh!
You want me to give another promotion? My ratings for Ken Flow? I'll do anything. I'll get a Team Florian tattoo if you want.
Where would I get it?
Don't you?
No tattoo bets.
Tattoo already?
I do. Well, you're in town next week, so you're gonna force me. You're gonna drag me to a tattoo shop or what?
Pay-per-view is a terrible time for me to do anything.
Yeah. Not that anybody realizes that. Oh, John, you'll be in town. We'll go to dinner.
I am going to Barstool Sports for the first time. That should be exciting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
that's cool. You should bring a disinfectant.
I don't get it. I'm bringing my twin brother though.
Yeah. No, it's a. Never mind. Seems like a grimy place. So if I'm homeless next weekend, if I'm doing this show from the street or something like that, it's going to be because I put my rent check on Weili Zhang to win by finish. You guys know, my football handicap is not great, but when I got to read on a fight, I'm pretty locked in. I don't think that Carla lasts more than 2 rounds against Weili. When Weili comes out there and she's ready and she's ferocious, I'm not sure many people can stand against her. Rose can with her elusiveness, but Carla's not elusive. She's not incredibly flight of foot. And she always seems to start slow. She has that dead face, in the introduction. I think Weili's going to put a blitz on her, especially with the camp that she comes from. I think that's going to be the game plan. And in her last 3 UFC finishes, they're all under 2.5 rounds. So I see Weili going out there and putting on a performance and probably putting Carla out within, 7.5 minutes would be my prediction.
Yeah, Carla Esparza is an awesome human being, 2-time UFC strawweight champion. I will admit to being way off on this betting line. I thought Zhang Weili would be north of -500, but
I think she should be.
Carla's,
and if you guys wanted to
prove people wrong. So.
In the YouTube comments, put the over/under on what my age looks like without my beard, because I look like a fucking child.
Yeah, might have to grow that back. I mean, you look handsome as usual, but you look 16, 17 years old. So
yeah, thanks. Me and Raul Rosas are producing the pod.
All right, Cody, thank you very much. Don't forget AnnaFlorianPodcast.com for all of your merchandise needs, and you can check out anything relating to the podcast. Big things coming up in 2023. We were not teasing a non-announcement of that, I can assure you. Also, KennyFlorianMartialArts.com continues to be live. And check out Millions.co. You can get merch for Matt, the Steamroller Frivola, and we also, within the last 24 hours, released our One More Sleep designs, exclusive for New York City and UFC at 281. Thank you to our guests, Matt the Steamroller Frivola, Ray Longo, and Brian Peachy. Our executive producer is Cody Merrow. And thank you all for listening, for watching, subscribing. We appreciate every last one of you. For Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Until next week, enjoy UFC 281. We will recap it with you next Sunday, November 13th. Yo fucking yo.
Success. Start. Success. Start. Success. Start. Complete.
And now, weighing in out of the blue corner.
Was amazing. I thought we voted to get rid of this daylight
hate
savings
it.
stuff.
I can't stand it. Now it's going to be dark at frickin' 5 o'clock.
Yeah, you know. I know. But you know what though? It's kind of nice to. I like to wake up with like the sun kind of coming up a little bit already.
Yeah.
So this is kind of nice.
I like to be up in the dark and watch the sunrise after I'm already up. I like that.
But like John was saying, if you guys are a first-time listener, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. You guys will not need to go do another combat sports podcast. You only have to come to us because we will cover everything. You don't need to go to those media people, okay? Come to us. We are not media, so come to us and we'll have some fun. We're out here to have some fun. You won't
And
need
so
to
it
listen to
begins.
anybody else. Yes, it's always going to begin. I always like to take jabs, you know, at people. So you're going to learn to love us, and if you don't, then it's on you. But hey, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and the little bell as well as the thumbs up. We want to thank you guys for continuing to support us on this show. Go to weighinpodcast.com. Pick up some of our merch if you're a first-time listener. You guys can go there. We offer hoodies. We offer sweatshirts. We offer long-sleeve shirts. Winter's coming. You know it's getting colder. Enjoy it. So, Big John, what do you want to talk about first? Let's not talk to producer Dave. He got a little big head of himself when we were doing the
He's in
pre-show.
charge. The man in charge.
Yeah, the man in charge was talking some smack to us, so we have to just put him off to the side. You probably won't hear from Big Podcast Dave today. So,
Nope.
John, what would you like to talk about?
Oh, come on. We got to start with this. Let's just go and let's talk about the hot topic. You're still on fire. People in the media are still going after you. I love
Oh, we're going to talk about that now. I thought we were going to do the fights first.
Oh no, why not?
Oh.
Come on, just start it off the right way. Let's go. The hell with fights. There's that
Jeez.
that fight
This is
within the
great.
fight. It's just
No.
a beautiful thing. No, look, I laugh at it. I think it's hysterical.
Okay. Since you brought it up, I mean, look, Ariel did this thing. Dave, do you have that? So,
The whole 12 minutes?
No. But Ariel.
no.
Okay, so
Please.
can we summarize this? Ariel did this clip for his show, and I want to make sure this is very clear. I don't have anything against Ariel at all.
I love Ariel.
I actually like Ariel.
I
and
love
as
Ariel.
much as we jab at each other back and forth, all of these things,
Well, you had that little thing a while ago where I think he thought you were mad at him.
Yeah, but here's the thing, John. Like, this is how much I don't care. I can't even remember what that was about.
Okay.
I don't. And people, like, I want you guys to understand the way I am on this show. This is the way I am in life. Like,
Oh yeah, you're a pain in the ass.
I know, and I don't let people. I don't let people's outside stuff affect me. I really don't. It just, if you don't have positive energy and you're around me, I just leave, and I'm good with it. Now I like Ariel. I've always liked him for the longest time. We had a little beef, when I was fighting because of some of the questions he would ask. Also, kind of some of the questions he would ask other fighters. I just kind of was like, oh God, this guy, But I also
that's
know
his job.
That's his job. I agree, and I also know that he's good. He's actually good for the sport. I got
He's
a lot of nice things to say about Ariel.
So do I.
In this whole thing, he just basically repeated what I had said after I'd come out and released my video talking about the media promoting the Bellator Rising cross promotion. And I came back and bad word, promoting.
Bad word.
That everyone was, and I came back and I rebutted that and I said, look, everyone should understand. I shouldn't have to point this out. I should have said covering. And he pointed that out as well after I had already done the same. He is right. Other media guys had come. Luke Thomas had came and said, look, Josh said covering. He's like, it's not our job to promote. And I know it's not their job to promote. John, you and I know it's not their job to promote.
That's why you're not a journalist. You use
Yes.
the wrong word at times. Oh my God. Let's
Ariel's-
jump all over it because we have the opportunity to try to take the light off of us not doing our job sometimes the way it's supposed to be done. And we're just going to harp on Josh's one bad word.
This show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. If this is the first time you're listening to our show, Big John and I weighing in, go to MyBookie.ag. Use our promo code weighing in to see all your best betting odds at MyBookie.ag. If you are a first-time listener, your first initial deposit at MyBookie.ag will give you a little extra spending cash when you use our promo code weighing in. Also, you only have to bet your winnings one time. That's actually remarkable because most online sites make you bet it 7, 8, sometimes up to 10 times before you can pull your winnings out. You only have to bet your winnings one time. We use our promo code weighing in at MyBookie.ag. I'm not going to tell you guys how to do your job. Look, this is what my whole point was in that first initial video, and I even had some other media. What was it? MMA. What was it called? Dave, MMA Evolve.
I've got it right here. Yeah.
So
MMA Evolution.
MMA Evolution on Sirius. So they came out and said
a good job.
Yeah, they did a great job. They summed up exactly like, I believe that this is a huge deal. Now, I do understand where other guys have come, like Luke Thomas. He works for Showtime. He's paid by Showtime and what, CBS or whatever. I think
Him
it's
and Brian
Showtime.
Campbell's show,
Yeah,
Morning Combat, is
exactly. They do a fantastic
it's a
job.
great show.
It's a great show. Ariel is separate from his own. I just believe that it is the media's job for something like a show like this to be covered. Now, I also feel like to be covered and to put the spotlight on, because all I heard from all of them is that, you know what, Bellator doesn't do a good job of promoting their fighters, and Ryzen doesn't do a good job of promoting their fighters. I also believe that everyone's like, well, I don't even know who those, like Ariel said, I don't even know who the fighters from Ryzen are. Well, that's
his fault.
That's his fault, and that is what that is that's a reflection of, you're not really covering the sport, you're covering the UFC. Now, he said it very clearly. There's the big dog, which is the UFC. No one's in denial of that. We're not denying that. And then you've got Bellator and PFL that are kind of like with each other. I got Bellator a little bit ahead, and not because that I work for them. I just think they have the better talent of fighters on the roster.
Okay.
When I look at the comparison of fighters, the top level fighters, and if I was to match them all up, that's how I look at it. And they're about equal in terms of depth. I would say that Bellator has a bigger depth also of fighters. So I'm seeing the same fighters in the PFL every single time. They're recycling. Bellator is bringing in new fighters. Now you've got One. I believe that One is a great promotion. They just don't have enough shows normally. And we don't get to really view them as much. But they are now on Amazon Prime doing a great job promoting their products. Everyone's like, oh, but One is this. One is $400 million in debt. Let's remember that. So the fact that they're still around is baffling to all of us. But they have a great talent of fighters in the lower weight classes. We have said this for forever. My job, though, not even my job, my love for this sport, I am not media, but my love for this sport is to bring more attention to the fighters. I was a fighter for 20 years. I want to give everything I can, John, to these fighters.
That's what you're doing. Is you're giving the opinion of a fighter. You're not covering the sport in a fashion of the journalist or the media. You're giving your opinion, and it's your opinion, be it right or be it wrong. It's your opinion of what are the fighters doing, what should they, in your opinion, be doing. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what our podcast is about. But it's easy for people to try to lump everything together. Let's put a label on it. I want to put a label on it, and so it's easy for them to say, well, you're the media, so why aren't you not covering? No, I do cover it. I cover as much as we can, but I don't do it from the media standpoint because I don't write stories. One of the things that happens off of our podcast all the time that cracks me up is we get a lot of these websites and media people taking what we say on our podcast and writing a story about it to get clickbait stuff, and you look and you go, really? Is that your way of being a journalist? How many stories have you written on anybody and what they've said?
I'm still trying to write cursive, dude. I can't.
and that's the whole thing. Look, we are definitely not journalists. If someone wants to try to smash us into media, we're a different type of media. I'll say, okay, we're a certain type of media, but we're not. We're not the typical. And look, I want to say, there's some great journalists out there in the MMA world, and and there's guys that I think it's unfair to even put them. Brett Okamoto works for ESPN.
He's fantastic.
He is, and he's in a different position. He should only be really talking about the UFC, and I don't blame him for that, and I don't see how that could be, anyone could look at it any differently. If he talks about another fighter from, okay, but his emphasis should be on the UFC. That's the company he works for. That's who they, cover it. I could see the PFL, since ESPN has the PFL too, where he could be doing some things there, but that kind of thing. It's when you have someone that works for one of these MMA websites or some type of publication, and all they cover is the one show. To me, all I'm saying is you're missing out. You're kind of being lazy. And you're not being the true journalist who can look at the good of the UFC, which there's a ton. Look at the bad, which there is some. Look at the good of Bellator and PFL and One, which there is some. And look at the bad and say, hey, this is what I think needs to be done. Those are the things that they should be doing. They should be looking at some of it and saying, hey, I think you guys need to fix this. There's some great guys out there, like John Morgan, most of the time he's at the UFC, and I don't blame him with his blue shirt, and that's where he lives, and it's all good. But Nolan King is doing a fantastic job. Look, Ariel is an outstanding journalist. He's a journalist.
Yeah.
He does.
He'll remind you with the little thing that hangs over his shoulder or something like that. It's
that's all right.
I've journalist award, this and that. I get.
And I want to say, look, I think that he's one of the best interviewers I've ever seen for MMA. He does a great job of interviewing people and getting things out of them sometimes that someone else is not going to do. So he's fantastic with that. And I will say, since his departure from what he was doing before, and then him going to ESPN and then leaving ESPN, he has covered things much more evenly. He covers fighters from all the different organizations. He doesn't have a thing where he doesn't cover someone because they're not in the UFC. He does a great job, and he's one of those guys that I look at and say, I would definitely go to him to hear something. And he's one of those guys that he's the guy that's always breaking news. He's breaking stories. He's breaking, oh, this fight is coming up. I hear that they're going to put this fight together. I don't do that. I hold those things back. You hold those things back. I know of fights. I've talked to the fighter who's going to be. He says, yeah, this is my next one. And he knows that I'm not going to sit there and tell anyone because it's not my job.
Yeah, pretty much to summarize it is that like you said, we don't break stories. We don't write stories. We'll talk on pieces that other journalists or websites have said, and we'll bring it up, like, hey, so-and-so broke this, and we're going to talk about it. We're not going out. I'm not outside of this podcast and us giving our professional opinion. For 22 years, I was a fighter. For however long you were a ref, 40 years? Okay.
Sports 30 years old, basically.
Yeah. You started before. We're just giving our professional opinions and the history of what we've done and the people that we know. And we don't. I can't give you guys. I sit down with Coker and have lunch with him or breakfast with him. You just did in Dublin or in Italy, right? Like, there's so much stuff that is said in one meeting. I can't say that to you. I wouldn't have friends if
you wouldn't have a job.
I wouldn't have a job. So, and if you don't believe that, ask Ariel how he's not originally with the UFC anymore. That's how all that comes about. So, look, like I said, I appreciate and respect what Ariel does. I know that there was some stuff that went on with us between us, a little while back. I can't even remember what it was about because I don't think about like that type of stuff. I don't keep that stuff in me. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a negative person. I enjoy being around positive people. But there was that, what was it, MMA Evolution on Sirius Radio. They did a bit about it. Dave, can you pull up some of what they said?
Yeah, I can. I've got the podcast here, so
yeah.
I can
So what I liked what they said was that the media definitely does give a lot of they'll take whatever they're fed from the UFC. Yeah. And they brought up a good point here, is that when the Zuckerberg thing happened at the Plex or the Apex or whatever, they basically said, "Oh, okay," and it wasn't really like it was them eating it.
Now, and this is where I look and I go, I can see where they're stuck in two positions.
Yeah.
When the UFC basically said, "We're going to give you the week off." All right, that's not the media, the journalists are not asking for the week off. They're being told you can't come. It should have been, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, and it's an opinion, but it should have been that they said, no problem, and there should have been no coverage of that event from the media. You weren't
That's
allowed
not fair to
go
the fighters, though, John. That's not fair to the fighters.
Hold on. I admit that. I think that the problem is the fighters are the ones that are suffering. Mackenzie Dern, who's fighting in that, fight, she's suffering not based upon anything she's done. It's based upon, her promotion is wanting to do a certain thing with certain entities, and they're the ones that are pulling that back. So I agree. But in reality, it almost should have been, hey, we won't cover it. That really should have been the way they looked at it. I understand why they did it, and they covered it anyways. But that's a slap to the media, because the media, although, I'm going to say the word, they don't promote, they help promote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
because
true.
Every time the UFC gives them, information or something, and they put it out, that's helping the promotion promote what they are trying to put out there to the public. It's coverage. They're using that information as coverage, but coverage actually helps the promotion in promoting what it is that they want to push forward. And that event, the whole Zuckerberg thing, you looked and you went, man, that's really a bad light that you're showing if you're telling the media they can't come, and then if the media is actually doing probably what they should have done. They probably shouldn't have covered the whole thing. They did, and it's fine. But you look and you go, probably shouldn't have. They probably should have kind of told the UFC, hey, you can't do this to us.
Well, but to go back on what you were just talking about is that I know I said this before, except where you were denied credentials if you talked about Bellator too much, you talked about other promotions too much, or you went to those. That was obviously in the draconian days, but as we're coming up though, up until the ESPN deal was signed, where they bought over the pay-per-views, they were still, when the Bellator was during the same week, because I have media members that have reached out to me and said, we just weren't allowed, if we went to Bellator on Thursday, like when we were on CBS Sports, if we went to Bellator on Thursday, we covered you guys, and then we flew to go to the UFC, we were given a press credential, but then we were given a seat in the stands. Basically not on the press tables. We were given a seat in the stands, and we actually were on our laptop working from there. That was it. So they actually... That's what I was told by some that were covering the UFC during that time. And then when the ESPN deal with the pay-per-views got bought, and then they started guaranteeing, I think it was like 500,000 pay-per-view buys. Then the UFC was like, look, there's no reason for this. We're going to get plenty of coverage. It's not really costing us anything. All of those things being said, I was not off. What I was repeating was from what some media members had told me. Is that when we went to Bellator on Thursday, we covered the weigh-ins on Wednesday and did the fight on Thursday, and then went to the UFC on Friday and then covered them on Saturday. We weren't always given a press pass. We were given a ticket. We covered it from our actual seats. That's what I was told. I'm not giving any names, but that's what I was told. And so I went with that. Revoking your credentials, I mean, I know I've heard those stories from way back, and then you got to remember there was a time where guys like were in Sherdog and all those they were booted out. They were like, no, you guys are not here.
You work for Sherdog, you were not allowed in.
Yeah, you weren't allowed in. So,
and what was that based upon?
Like I said, John,
I got
positive, I don't remember.
As simple as it gets. It was based upon the two reporters, Josh Gross, who let out after the tough four when they had the comeback where it was Matt Serra and Travis Lutter and all those guys. He let out who, before the show ever came out, he on a podcast or on a radio interview basically said, okay, here, this is going to be a spoiler, so if you don't want to know, don't listen. But he put out who were going to be the guys in the finals. It was going to be Patrick Cote against Travis Lutter and Matt Serra against Chris Weidman. He put that out. Dana exploded it, and I don't blame Dana. Look, this is the difference. This is what a journalist does. He finds out something, and he puts it out there. And so that was a big part. And then the other part was Loretta Hunt. And let's be honest, UFC ruined Loretta Hunt's career within MMA. She's still a writer and does all kinds of books and everything. She wrote my book. She wrote Randy Couture's book. She was gonna write, I think, DC's book. She wrote.
Yeah, she was talking to me about doing one. She was talking about doing one with me as well.
And she does all kinds of things still, but she wrote an article about the UFC taking away passes for the managers or limiting things down, and it was based upon they didn't want the manager in the back because it was easy to go in the back and talk to the fighter without the manager, and the fighter would agree to things. And so it was managers that went to her that said, hey, this is what's occurring, and then Dana went on a rant and said all kinds of things that you should never say, and put out at the time, remember, he was doing the vlogs, he was doing his video vlogs, and he got in trouble with all kinds of communities based upon some of the things he said, but he never took what he did to her, and what he said was absolutely horrible. But she eventually she just left the sport of MMA because it just left a horrible taste in her mouth, and I don't want to be part of that. And it's too bad because she was great for this.
Yeah, she covered me quite a bit back in the day. She was a sweet person, really nice, really nice. But go ahead, Dave. Go ahead and play this little clip if there's a little bit of a soundbite you can get.
Yeah, it's probably like a minute and a half. So just whenever you're ready to cut, just let me know.
Certain times of year. I do want to kind of just go back to the Bellator Rising thing, about the evolution of the sport and stuff. You kind of mentioned it when we had Jillian on last week. Josh Thompson put out that I think when I talked about it with my editor over at my MMA News, first of all, I told him I agreed with Thompson. And it was like when we worded it.
That's
poorly,
rare,
and
by
I
the
know what
way.
he meant
Media
by
never
that.
agrees with me.
Thompson asked MMA Media, "Are you going to promote this event?" And that's where it's the funny thing is all the people that chimed in that to say we're not promoters and blah 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 are also the people that are guilty of literally riding the UFC's fucking nutsack all the time. And so he didn't mean to say promote. I almost wanted to reach out to him to try to get him on here, but with timing and trying to do everything, I was just like, you know what? If I'll bring it up next Bellator event I cover, hopefully in December. If I get to Mohegan Sun in December, I'll just ask him straight up to like record it or something. But like, whatever he meant to say. But he kind of said, "What are you afraid you're going to lose your UFC credential?" And all the folks that were like attacking him were kind of just like, "Oh, we don't promote events. We're not afraid. We're not afraid using it." But not for nothing. Literally at the beginning of the same month, all of you motherfuckers got your credential pulled for one weekend, so that Mark Zuckerberg could sit cage side and watch an event, and nobody said shit about it. Not only did you not say shit about it, you fucking ate that shit, and literally were like, "Okay, we'll just come back next weekend," and not ever bring it up and ask why, or no one said anything about it. Like, why did you do that to us? How come you didn't mention it when we asked? And then, it was allegedly for some Dana White flat out said, "Oh, Mark Zuckerberg didn't rent the thing," but I mean, everybody clearly saw different.
All right.
People were like,
let's be honest with it. And this is what we were talking about with the whole thing that happened with Sherdog and with Josh Gross, Loretta Hunt.
Are you ready?
Dana did those things, and he did them for a
stay
reason.
alert.
And it showed to everyone else, hey, I'll do this to you too. And so that has not been forgotten by the MMA media or the journalists. They all still know about it. They all talk about it. They know that is out there, and they don't want that to happen. And I'm not saying Dana would do that again now, but when something has happened, it puts it in your mind that it could happen again. And I think the whole thing is this, and I don't give a shit if it's Bellator and Ryzen or if it was the PFL with one. This whole cross promotion thing is great for the sport.
Yeah.
And everyone should get behind this type of interaction between two promotions, because this is what's going to give you sometimes great fights. Not all the time. I'm not saying that everyone's going to be a great fight, but it's the possibility of having fights that at a certain point have never been possible, and now you're having two promotions come together to put together fights that are really going to be outstanding as far as the competition level. I can't say what the fight's going to end up being like. They could be fantastic, they could be crummy, but they're giving fighters an opportunity to fight in a place that their contracts normally wouldn't allow them to. That's good for the sport. It's good for the fighters. It's good for the fans. It's good for the media. It's good for everyone. There's nothing bad in this, and the whole thing comes down to this. Hey, please cover it in a fashion that shines some light on what promotions are doing, what the fighters are doing, having to go through now that they're fighting someone that they've never seen before, or any of that. All of those things are great stories and things that can bring other people into the world of MMA and get them excited.
But John, like Ariel, he even said on his clip, he said, "Look, I can't even tell you who AJ McKee's fighting." He's like, "I don't know the Rising fighters."
Oh, that's too bad,
well,
because he's
that's
such a good fighter.
And that's the thing. I actually talked with, not with AJ, but with some people that are working with AJ right now, and they're like, "This is a scary fight for him."
Fuck
This
yes,
not.
it is.
And so, and not just him, but like Patricio's fighting a guy who's a lot taller than him and longer than him, and I know he's
never
dealt with
been a
those
problem.
types-
How many?
never
How
been
many?
a problem.
That's everybody.
I get it. That is everyone.
Everybody.
And Juan Archuleta's got his hands full as well.
His hands full. Great
But
fight.
my point is Ariel Helwani is considered to be number one, number two, I guess, in MMA in terms of coverage. How do you not know the champions at Rise? I thought you were a journalist, and I'm not taking a dig at you, dude. I'm not taking a dig at you, Ariel. I think, like I just said, I've said repeatedly on this short little clip here, that I think you're fantastic. And I get that you cover mainly UFC because they're the top dog. We get all that. But how do you not know the champions in the other organization? And now that this is happening, I look at Bellator. This is a huge risk for them. They've got more to lose than Ryzen does.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this is such a big deal. Is they're doing what the UFC is afraid to do with Bellator, or with PFL, or with ONE. They're afraid to take that chance and put a spotlight on another organization, whereas they're not doing that. And Bellator's allowing these other fighters to have a spotlight put on them. I'm going to be honest. The guy who's fighting AJ, he beat Tofik Mosayev. Tofik Mosayev is a fucking savage. Yeah. And that's
beat him in the first round in like 2 minutes.
And that's what's crazy. And Tofik Mosayev's got a win over Patricky Pitbull. But that's the thing. These journalists or these media, they don't even know who he is. And that's why when I talked to Coker about this, I said, "Why are you doing this?" I go, "I like the idea of cross promotion. I always have, but maybe 1 fight, 2 fights, champions. That's a lot at risk." And I've said this before. I even said it on Rogan. You don't have champions fight. Maybe if you were to do Bellator and UFC or PFL and Bellator, you don't do champion versus champions, so promotions don't get affected too much. They don't lose their money lines. But what they do is you put like a number 2 guy versus number 1 guy, or vice versa. You have fighters that really wanted to see. I always said MVP and Stephen Thompson would have been a great fight. Oh, it would have been a great fight. You know what I mean? Like, you put fights together that fans want to see. Yeah. This is something that these fights, whether they're going to be good or not, no one knows. But it is a cross promotion that other promotions have never tried to do. This is the first big time cross promotion. And I feel like the media should be giving it a lot of coverage, which as of lately they have been. And it will fade away here. It will fade away during November, December, up until about 2 weeks before the fight. It will fade away. And it happens for every promotion. Yeah. You hear a fight gets broken, from whoever, and then it says, "Hey, this fight's going to happen." And then it dies down because they're promoting all the other fights that are happening in between, which is fair. And then in about a week and a half, you're covered. Sorry. I did it again. And so they're covering the other fights that are all happening coming up, which is fair. I just feel that this is the biggest co-promotion that's ever happened in sports, in this sport, in combat sports history, in MMA history, I should say, sorry. And this is a huge deal. So for them to say, "Oh, well, it's not our job to promote," you guys know what you're doing. You're trying to twist the words.
You know what your job is.
And take the emphasis off of you guys. And that was my point. I'm not taking a dig at any of you guys. I want you guys.
Let's be honest.
I know. I would like the media to give these fighters that are from Ryzen, that are from Bellator, the fact that this is a huge deal, give them their due. A lot of these fighters, it's been their dream to fight in Japan on New Year's Eve. It is one of the biggest spectacles in the world that I was a part of one time, but it's absolutely fantastic. And these fighters, they want the world to see who they are and what they can do. That's all I want. I want a lot of these guys like AJ McKee, guys like Juan. Juan Archuleta doesn't get enough credit.
Doesn't get enough respect.
He doesn't get enough love, man. The guy is fantastic. He's a fantastic fighter. And then you've got. I don't have to say anything about Patricio. He's a stud. He's been the pillar of Bellator. He's the best fighter that ever come out of Bellator. Ever, and maybe the one day he'll get someone will overtake that. But as of right now, he's the guy that's helped carry that promotion.
Records are made to be broken, no matter what they are. Yeah.
So I wanted to clarify all that stuff. Big fan of Morning Combat, Luke Thomas, BC, Ariel. Got nothing but love for you, respect for you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. I know I'll dig at you. Never take it personal with me. I don't take it personal from you guys. I know we had that little thing where I was posting pictures of me on the beach, whatever it is. Bro, I just want to let everyone know.
That's just you.
It doesn't affect me. I go on social media when I'm bored, and I leave social media because I got things to do. And so it doesn't affect me. I don't pay attention to it. I get clips from Dave saying, "Hey, so-and-so said this." I don't look at stuff anymore. I just literally come here, give my opinion, watch the fights, give my opinion on the fights, my expert opinion. Okay, 20-something years of doing this is my expert opinion, like John's.
Hey, you're
That's
an expert.
what this is.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
People can say what they want. You're an expert. I just look at it this way. Hey, for everyone out there, please give this give this just a little thought, and then you and I, we're not perfect, but we're goddamn close.
Yeah. You
All
guys,
right, let's get on to the UFC.
Be kind to someone. Enjoy your day. See you later. The show's
Thank
over.
you very much. I love that. So everyone out there, be kind to Ariel. I want you to do something kind for Ariel. No, it's like, look, fight night.
How are you not nice to the nose, huh? How are you not nice to the nose? I love it.
You know what? He's made a hell of a career. I give him credit, man, because it's not easy. I don't care what you do, and you have to work your ass off. I tell people all the time, don't sit there and expect things just to happen. And the one thing that I love about Ariel, I'll say it right now, he's a hard worker.
Yeah,
man, he's traveling all the time. This is a guy that he's got kids. He's a hard worker, and he works at his craft. And anybody that does that, I have respect for. And I've always liked Ariel. So, but let's get on with the UFC, because they had a fight night, and there was actually some really good performances. Maybe not the greatest fights as far as competition overall, but there was some great performances in this. You want to start from the bottom or start from the top? You tell me, man. But it's
well, there's not many to talk about from the bottom.
Okay.
So there's only 2 from the bottom that I really want to mention. The rest of them were lackluster. So we can start. Let's go ahead and start from the bottom.
All right. So let's start from the bottom, because I want to talk about Jake Hadley, because that was a performance to talk about. He looked completely different than I watched him when he did his Dana White contender fight, and he looked really good. And then his first UFC, he ran into someone that was able to stifle everything that he did, put him on his back, made it to where he really wasn't offensive. And man, in this one, he was offensive throughout it. It was a very good fight. Carlos Candelario did a great job. He took a lot of big shots. And I'll tell you what, I love the body shots that Jake Hadley was going after him. He continued with those body shots, both left and right hand, and when Candelario would switch, continue back after him. And those made a big difference in the fight, because they took a lot of gas from Candelario. You could see where they were affecting. You saw his elbows getting tight towards his body at times. You go, oh, that hurt him, and all those things. And then the submission was, look, Candelario decided to change where this fight was taking place. Because on the feet, I think the body shots were getting to him. Those shots, after a while, you go, I can't take him anymore. He goes for the takedown. He gets the single leg takedown, and right away, Hadley brings up a high guard, puts it over towards the triangle, locks that up. Didn't have the arm across, and that's why it took so long for it to finally become a good submission. But I thought overall, you talk about coming back off of a poor performance. What a great performance by Jake Hadley.
That was also his debut, though, correct, John?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, the nerves.
Yeah,
and then he's from Europe. He's from the UK, so it's like, okay, coming over and just the travel, whatever it was. I mean, just understanding that. Where was that fight at, John? Dave, his last fight. Was it in the UK?
I think it was at the fucking Apex too.
Was it at the Apex?
I think so.
Anyways, I'm just saying, if he had to travel from the UK to the States, and his first fight in the UFC, all those things, I know you're supposed to be able to perform. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. And but you can see that he's getting better. You can see that he understands what he needs to do now. He wasn't going to be pushed around. He wasn't going to be bullied around. And Candelario came out really aggressive in the first part, and he stood his ground. He stuck some nice jabs out there. Candelario has a stiff jab. Beautiful jab. Beautiful. But the thing with jabs is they make you tired if you're active with them. You're constantly reaching. It's really just rotating the upper body and giving a little bit of the hip and sticking that stiff jab in the face. They can make you tired. They can start to make those arms fatigue.
Yep.
And he was just sticking the jab, but he wasn't following up with the 2s and the 3s. He did early in the fight in the first 2 minutes, but as that started slowing down, his defense started fading him too. And so then that's when Hadley started just touching him. And I really loved how Hadley was coming back with the leg kicks. He'd throw the combination, throw the leg kick, come back hands, and then throw the leg kick again. He would lead with the leg kick and then throw the hands. He did a great job of mixing it up. And as soon as the fight hit the ground, he went right to submission, attacks, attack. Nicely done. Great performance. I'm not going to hold too much stock on this, to be honest. He did what he had to do in camp. He made some changes. He came back and fought a great fight. But the competition in that weight class is going to get real stiff as he starts to make his way up. I'm expecting big things from him, from what I saw from that performance. I want to, like I said, what did we say? Who was it the other night? The young kid who's from the Dana White Contender Series. Rosas?
Oh, yeah. 18-year-old.
I want to, yeah. How old is Hadley? I want to slow things down for these guys, their first, second fights. He's 26. Give him some time.
Bless you. Oh,
Do you want
down goes Josh.
Yeah,
down goes Thompson.
Yeah. It's been rainy and windy here a little bit the last couple of days, and I've noticed I've been sneezing a little bit more. So,
fall.
So I want to hold off too much hype, because then what happens, these young guys go home and they read their paper clippings and they're like, oh, and then things change. I want to give him the love he deserves. He went back to the drawing board, did his homework, came back, and he impressed. Keep on the same stride. Keep doing what you're doing. Be positive. Stay focused on the guys in your gym. You guys keep getting better. He's at a great gym. They've got they're having great success right now on what they're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
Good stuff. Great performance by him. Let's go back to the main card. I thought that Munoz Jr. had a great performance, a very dominant performance, but I thought he had a great performance. He fought smart. He fought aggressive. He was letting the hands go. He was really putting together. He looked really fit. He just
good wrestling at times.
Yep. Dominant top control when he got to the top. He was doing everything really well, really well. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Same thing with him, though. Dial back all the hype on him and just keep doing what you're doing, and just stay in line. Like, didn't look like you took a lot of damage. Maybe I didn't see something. As soon as you get home, take a day or two to enjoy some food, but get back on that training regimen and just stay focused on what you're doing. Get another fight in, because you looked impressive. Build on this. I think for these young fighters, you've got to continue to do that. As a young fighter, I was so stupid. I'm just being honest. Fight that night, club, party, hang out for a week, and then I got back in the gym, but it was half-assing it. But still, that next week or two I was out eating. I mean, I was never a big guy, but I didn't take it as serious as I should have. And after spending time training with guys, like could be a lot of the guys from Dagestan, who they don't drink, they don't gamble, they don't party, they don't go out, they focus on what they're doing, and look at the leaps and bounds that they make from fight to fight. The progress is being shown. If you want to be a premier athlete these days, you can't be a part-time athlete. That's what the difference is. You cannot be. Fighting doesn't have a season. So since fighting doesn't have a season like the NFL and the NBA, you don't have the time to go enjoy your 3 months off. You need to be constantly grinding, because the UFC or any other promotion may just call you on a whim. Say, hey, we have this fight. You need to always be ready, especially in this day and age. Back when I was fighting, there was only 7-8 pay-per-views a year, and there was very, very rare the promotions had a lot of fights. So you got as many fights as you possibly could. You had to stay training. I missed out on some fights because I wasn't ready. My weight was up, whatever it was. But great job by Munoz. And do you want to go ahead and give the ladies her due?
Look at Polyana Viana. Went out there. I mean, she did a great job. She, put shots. And this is where I was saying, I thought I like Jin Yu Fry. I think she's a great fighter, but she's just too small for that weight. She needs to be back at atom weight. The girls are just, and women are just physically, and Jin Yu Fry is strong, but it's just the size difference, and it causes their problems. And Polyana lit her up. That was she got knocked out. It says TKO when they talk about it. That's what we call a KO. It was out. And when they announced it, they said TKO. I'm glad they changed it, because this is the whole thing. Very simple for everyone out there. When you're looking at what's the difference between TKO and a KO, when the referee looks at it, as simple as this. Could the fighter...
You and I are having some problems right now.
Well, I'll tell you, man. You just sent it all the way from California. Could the fighter, as far as intelligent defense, was the fighter not intelligently defending themselves, and you stop the fight, that's a TKO. Okay? what you're looking at for a KO is the fighter cannot intelligently defend themselves, meaning that their brain's not there. They're not able to function. They're not able to do anything. When you're looking at the TKO, they can. They're just not, doing the right things. Their brain's there. It's when their brain's not there, even though they're not out completely, but their brain's been altered, and they cannot intelligently defend themselves based upon the inability from the shots they took. That's when it becomes a KO. That was definitely because she went out. And there was other ones, when you look at even the main event. I know Rodriguez afterwards claimed that it was stopped early. No, it wasn't. Jason Herzog did her a favor. Trust me, she was in trouble. When you start looking like a kid on a playground getting beat up and just kind of turning, you weren't there. You're not fighting. That's not what a professional fighter does. And it's because you were hurt. So it happens. But Mario Bautista, nice win, beautiful submission against Benito Lopez. Well done. But Miranda Maverick, you have got to give her credit, man. She looked fantastic against Shayna Young. When that fight, you saw just the level of difference when that fight hit the ground. Shayna Young had no answers whatsoever as far as positioning, as far as how to actually get herself away or get herself back to the fence at times. Miranda Maverick was just all over her. That was a beautiful, it went to a decision, but I love the fact she was trying to finish it the whole time. She was going after the choke. She was setting things up. She was landing shots. That was a fantastic performance by Miranda Maverick.
I was very impressed with Grant Dawson. I was also very impressed with Polyana Viana because I didn't get a chance to talk because John took the spotlight. So I'm
sorry.
But Viana looked fantastic. She's kept her distance. She was trying to figure out the timing. Great job by her. But Grant Dawson looked outstanding. The simple fact of the matter is that he took someone's strength and he used it against him. And he just said, look, instead of me getting up top in the clinch, I'm going to go ahead and start attacking the legs, get in there deep on the takedowns, and make you work from beginning to end. And he did a great job. Once that fight hit the ground, he was just making him work, constantly making him work. And I had never seen Marco Madsen get tired like that. He looked frustrated. He looked fatigued. He looked like he was just lost out there. And I think DC and I can't remember, who was the other? Dom. He took an Olympic caliber wrestler and he broke him. That was it. It got to the point at the very end, right before the submission, that Madsen was he was lost. He was just putting his hands out, trying to defend from everywhere. It was almost like Chris Tucker on Rush Hour. Which one of y'all motherfuckers is hitting
Which one do you hit me?
Yeah, and that's really what it looked like when he got mounted, got his back taken, all of those things. He didn't know what to do.
No.
And it's frustrating. It's just, man, what are you doing? But Grant Dawson looked fantastic. I'm going to also slow play this as well. He looked good, but he looked good, and he looked so good that it was dominant. He never had to fight it through any adversity in that fight. It just was one of those fights that it was a snowball effect. As he started taking over, it just got easier and easier for him. And it just was, he got into a rhythm of just, I can do this. So he's there. I think he's got a bright future. Let's see what he does from here on out. And obviously, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, I thought Grant Dawson had the performance of the show. I was unbelievable. Yes, by far, because look, he was going against a guy that no matter what, when you got a guy that's a silver medalist in the Olympics as a wrestler, and you go out and you out wrestle him, you out freaking condition him, you do all these things, and Grant Dawson has had some fights where it's gone the other way for him. He had the fight against Ricky Glenn where, look, he won the first 2 rounds, and Ricky Glenn in the 3rd round came out and was putting it on Grant Dawson to the point where 2 of the judges, and it should have been all 3, 2 of the judges gave Ricky Glenn a 10-8 round. He had him in a deep choke at the end of the fight. If the fight didn't, if the bell didn't end, that fight could have been over, and Dawson could have had a loss off of it. But he got a draw out of it. But he's been in those situations where things didn't go. The only thing that I'll take from Grant Dawson on this is he didn't make weight. And he talked about that, and he didn't. But goddamn, he had an unbelievable performance as far as what he did. A guy that was undefeated, all of those things. Competition-wise, I thought he had the performance of the night.
I'm gonna go with Hadley for performance of the night. That was me. I'm gonna go with Hadley, and I understand what you're saying, John, when it comes to Grant Dawson. But I can't give someone performance of the night for not making weight, and then also fighting somebody who I believe Marco Madsen's 38.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It just, you should be able to out endurance him. You should be able to push on the gas pedal. At 38 years old, for myself in the lower weight classes, I'm only speaking for myself. At 38, I started noticing a difference in terms of the conditioning, the recovery between rounds, all of those things. And if it wasn't going your way, it felt even worse. And so, like I said, I'm going to hold off on giving him too much love. First, what are the 3 jobs? What's your job? There's 3 things you have a job to do, right?
Yep.
Go ahead, John. This is your saying, so I'm going to let you blow it up.
No, it's real
One
simple.
of them is what?
First thing is be on time. Second is make weight. Third is go out and give it everything you have. The people, are buying the seats. They paid for you to fight hard. Fight hard.
And so he missed that second one. It's important.
He did. I admit it. Important. He did. But you got to look, because Marco Madsen's last fight before this was against a guy that came out of my gym, Vince Pichel, who is just a dog as far as great conditioning, great endurance, and O'Madsen was able to stay with him. And Pichel had his moments in that fight, but O'Madsen was able to stay with it. So that told me that look, he's got good conditioning. Grant Dawson just put him in those positions, and you've had those fights, and you've seen those fights where you're able to push someone at a pace that I don't care if it's 2 to 3 beats per minute of your heart faster than it should be. Those 2 to 3 beats per minute add up.
Mouthful. That's a mouthful.
But they add up, and when you are pushed to that's past your comfort zone or your ability, and someone stays on the pedal and keeps making you stay at that, and there's no way for you to slow it down, eventually you're going to fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And I thought Grant Dawson did a fantastic job of maintaining that pressure on him and keeping him in that position where he was working past his comfort zone.
I agree. My boy, man, Ulanbekov looked fantastic. He looked fantastic.
What are you going to say?
I got a little concerned, though, John, because Manis looked quick and fast, and he was throwing some heavy heat in the beginning of that fight. And Ulanbekov was backing up with his chin in the air, and I was like, please don't get caught. Please don't get caught. So you can see that he was trying to get the timing of it, but he took a couple big shots right before that. And he's not a big guy. So Ulanbekov, one of the first times I grappled him, I was like, man, you looked bigger when I saw you against the wall getting ready to train. And then I grabbed you, and I'm like,
wow,
you're tiny. You're so small.
But he was fighting 125 pounds. He's a flyweight. What do you expect?
I was afraid to roll over his leg or something and break it. It was but he's a stud. I love the little comparison they were trying to do with Umar. He went the distance with him. You were able to finish him, but I love how they give each other credit. I love how they're working with each other. I love how they're brothers for each other. Umar is a fantastic fighter. He's been training AK since he was 19 years old. He walked in that door. And I just seen the progression of him since then. And now you've got Ulanbekov as well. I've seen the progression of him. He's getting so much better.
Yeah.
And now it's just going to come down to who can implement their game plans as they go on and higher up in the rankings. I think Ulanbekov's got a little bit more time that he needs to grow. He needs to put some muscle on. Looks like he needs to get a little bit stronger. Whereas Umar is definitely filled out. He is filled out in terms of, you look at them side by side, and I'm like, you guys, if you look at this, Umar looks way bigger. But no, he is bigger. He is bigger.
Let's say he's fighting in a different weight class.
No, he is. No, I agree
Umar's
with you.
fighting at bantamweight. Ulanbekov is at flyweight, so they're in different weight classes. So.
They are. But even if I say they're in different weight classes, they look like they're in 2 different weight classes. Like Umar looks like he's a 55-pounder.
But Ulanbekov is taller than Umar.
Yeah.
And thinner.
Is he taller than him?
Yeah, he's a little bit taller than.
You think so?
I think so.
I
Look
don't
it up
think
for
so.
me. See how
I don't-
the height of. Willem Beckhoff is
So-
not 5'6"
5'6".
for a flyweight. Not bad.
Umar's probably 5'7", 5'8".
Really? I would have said Umar.
He's not a-
dude,
he's not
5'5" at most.
Really, 5'5",
I would have thought, yeah, at most.
5'8".
5'8".
Okay, you're right. Yeah.
I've had that little savage on me, man. Fucking trying to put my lights out.
Dude, every time I see him, I go, man, he's small.
Yeah, he's not a big guy either. Good performance by Ulanbekov. On to the next one, buddy. On to the next one. Good stuff. So full disclosure.
You got to bring up the one thing with Manis. Manis put out a photo of him supposedly weighing 178 pounds, and people were buying that. And I went, there ain't no freaking way. I'm sorry. So nice joke. Nice job by Nathan Manis having someone else put their foot on the scale to make it look like you were way more than what you weighed.
That's interesting. 170.
That was funny.
Yeah, you and I were texting back and forth, and I said, even when I was fighting at 55, I never got up to 178.
That's way too big. That's not going to be it. All right, Nurdimbeke Shalayan versus Derek Menner. I mean, you look at it and you go, hey, what can you do? It's Derek Menner. Obviously, something happened off of that kick when it started. He hurt himself, but he went right back to it, kicked again, and then went down from it. So this is just injuries happen. What are you going to say? You know, Nurdimbeke gets the win and you know, did what he was supposed to do. He went and, you know, he pounded him out, but just happens, injuries.
Well, if I was going to, for my ESPN app to finally shut down, or for it to shut down, it happened during the right fight, because I didn't see this fight because my ESPN app just shut off. I don't know why or what.
That's why I just kept talking about it. I know.
It went to a loading sign. I was texting you. I'm like, did your ESPN app shut down? And you're like, no, I'm watching. I'm like, fuck. So and then you said, you didn't miss anything. I was like, all right, cool.
No.
Then I went straight to the Neil Magny. As soon as I clicked back on, they were just introducing D-Rod and Neil Magny. John, we sat up here and we said that D-Rod was a lot. He was biting off a little bit more than he can chew. I got to be honest. He wasn't biting off more than he can chew.
No, he looked good throughout a lot of it. Look, in the stand-up, and this was the whole reason I said I think he's biting off more than. If it was a stand-up fight, I would have picked Daniel Rodriguez. His stand-up is clean. He's got a beautiful left hand straight down the pipe. He's got good footwork. He's got good balance. He's got good power. But he does not have a ground game that's close to Neil Magny. And if Neil, who is a guy that when he clutches onto you, he just starts to wear on you. Even if you're pretty good with your takedown defense, he eventually starts to just make you carry his weight, which gets you tired. And we know that Magny has got a gas tank. And so those aspects, you know, just in itself, it's like I looked at it and said, you know, look, Daniel Rodriguez could possibly knock out Neil Magny. No doubt about it. He's got that ability in the stand-up. But anywhere else in this fight, I don't see him winning. And that's what it came down to. Let's just be honest. Daniel Rodriguez got tired. Okay, and I don't blame him for getting tired. Yeah. He was working his ass off to try to get away from Neil Magny in the clinches and with the takedowns, and he was doing everything he could. And when he was free in the stand-up, look, he hurt Magny multiple times. He had Magny feeling the power and being very concerned, but this is the MMA, and that's what makes MMA so cool, is that you don't have to be the guy that's better, you know, with the punching or with the kicking. You can be the guy that's just better at, once I get a hold of you, you can't stop what I do. And that's Neil Magny, man. He has proven time and time again he has an outstanding ground game. Yeah. And when he locked up the Darce, because and this is the difference, Josh, and this is what people need to know. Look, he had that Darce locked up when he was standing. He actually had it through and he had it locked up, and he was smart enough to say, as the angle changed, he went back to the ratchet and he cranked him over and then sunk that in again. That shows a guy that understands the submission game. That shows a guy that understands, I can make this better. Don't try to hold on to something that is, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. Let me make sure that I get this thing as deep as I can. And that's what he did, and that's why he got the win. And I thought it was a great win for Neil Magny. The most wins of any welterweight in the UFC.
I liked what Neil said afterwards. He's like, look, I'm not here to say that I'm like GSP. He's like, we know that. And so that's what I actually respect that a lot. Not to say like, I'm equal with him. And it was nice. It was very refreshing to hear someone be honest, when they're in front of the mic. Neil Magny, to me, I had it 1-1 going into the third, and I had D-Rod winning that round up until that moment. So was I right or was I wrong?
No, you're right. You're
Okay.
absolutely right.
So to say, like, I sat up here specifically, I'm not going to throw you in that, but I sat up here and said that I thought there was going to be a tough fight for D-Rod. It was a tough fight. We expected it to be a tough fight, but he did better than I thought he was going to do. I thought Magny was going to be able to press him to the fence, knee him, clinch him, hang on him, be able to get him, take him down and dominate him, like kind of how he did in the end of the first round. I expected more of that out of Neil Magny, and he struggled in that second round. And then in the beginning of the third, he was also struggling. And so D-Rod did a lot of great things. I got to be honest, he's right up there. He deserves to be up in there in that mix. He just needs to make a couple little tweaks here and there. But this is the thing. When you lose, that exposes you to the other top level fighters. Then they start seeing how the groundwork is laid out. And they say, hey, all I got to do is get you down. Or, hey, all I got to do is this. Your submission defense is not what it should be to fight someone at my level. Now you're going to start seeing the top level guys in that weight class that have decent submission saying, you know what, I want that guy next. Oh, yeah. Give me that guy because that's a guy that I feel comfortable with getting this fight to the ground, and dominate. I'm going to give an example. You have D-Rod coming off of a loss. You got Sean Brady coming off of a loss. Sean Brady's, I get it, but I'm saying like Sean Brady, though, in this fight is be like, hey, I got to get my win. And the UFC has been known to put two fighters together that are both coming off losses. So one of them gets a win and gets back on track. I could see that potentially happening.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, I can see it happening and it makes sense. But if you're Daniel Rodriguez, you got to stick with what your strength is. And your strength is definitely the stand-up game. But he needs to figure out ways to make people pay for trying to come in and take him down. He's not making them pay. It was like with the Neil Magny thing, and the one thing he was actually, straight arming and pushing Neil away at times. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it burns a lot of gas, and it does nothing for you as far as doing damage to your opponent other than, you got that separation, but you got to make them pay for coming in on you and putting their hands on you in that fashion to try to take you down. That's the big difference.
Jump into that main event, though. Amanda Lemos versus Rodriguez. Marina. Marinara.
I'll tell you what.
I was going to say marinara.
Lemos looked great the whole time, I thought. I thought she was smart in that this was going to be, and I thought, both fighters watching him before, they both come forward. They both like to take the center of the cage. They both like to dictate. They both like to put their opponent going backwards, get on the back foot. And Lemos was able to dictate the position of the fight mostly throughout it. Now, she went for the one takedown, and Rodriguez was able to actually get position off of that takedown and end up in the top position. But I was very impressed with Amanda Lemos and the way that she was able to stand at times and throw and counter some of the shots that Marina Rodriguez is long, and she's got that length that you look and say that's a problem for most people in that weight class, and she uses it so well. But man, if you want to see how to handle someone with length, I thought Amanda Lemos really did a fantastic job with handling the length and continuing to move forward as she was, smart, not taking big chances. But when she decided to unleash, she was throwing with some heat. And that one, the one that hurt her was off the, basically close to the top of the head. But it only takes one. And once she had her where she saw that she gave that little stumble, she went after her. And I thought Jason Herzog actually did a great job in stopping the fight. It was just one shot away from Marina Rodriguez being face down, ass up. And so, great fight, great win for Lemos.
I thought Herzog did a shitty job. He should have let it go on. No, I'm just kidding. I love Herzog, man. No, I thought it was a good stoppage. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it either way. You're really saving a lifelong, some more rounds for her instead of letting her go face down, ass up. I thought that something must have happened in that first or second round because Rodriguez was giving her way too much respect halfway through, or the end, I guess the beginning of that second round. She just wasn't pulling the trigger. I don't know if it was the speed. Maybe she felt a little bit of that power, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Something made her not fight her fight. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Lemos. I think she fought a great fight. She did a great job of keeping her distance, not allowing Rodriguez to basically dictate where the fight was going with her long push kicks or her long leg kicks or her long jab and her striking. She wasn't allowing that to happen. She also wasn't allowing Rodriguez to hang on her head and try to make her tired. She did a great job, Lemos did, of getting her combinations off, doing what she wanted, and then getting out and staying away from the clinch. She did a fantastic job. I think in that first round, I think when she did the push by on the elbow and the foot sweep and got to the top,
yeah,
great job. And that really kind of put Rodriguez behind the ball. It was almost like, oh shit, this ain't supposed to be happening to me. That sometimes has an effect on you when you come in. You're ranked number 3, 2, or 3 or whatever she was ranked. I think she was ranked 3, and you're fighting someone who you feel like is probably not on your level. I mean, I think Lemos is a fantastic fighter, but when you get put on the bottom and then you realize you have no escape, you're like, shit, I can't go there. That's in your mind the rest of the fight. If I'm down on the ground again and she's better than me on the ground, like a dominant better than me on the ground, you're now worried about being taken down and not letting your hands go. And this goes for all when you see strikers versus wrestlers, or a good level wrestler versus like a decent, wrestler with good striking. It's always on their mind of getting taken down. And that freezes their hands and their stand-up just a tiny bit, which allows the combinations to be let go. And that's what happened with Lemos. She looked good. She looked on point. She looked laser focused. And that's very important, because when you get to these levels of that number 2, number 3, number 4, and someone like her, she's ranked number 7, I believe she was, you need to be laser focused every single fight, because they're coming to get you, as Marina Rodriguez found out.
That's it. And I still think Marina is a fantastic fighter, but you take a look, you just talked about that, Daniel Rodriguez, and the blueprint is there. People are looking at it. Their blueprint is there.
Yeah.
You saw what Amanda Lemos did. That's what you have to do. You want to get a win against Marina Rodriguez? There it is, right there.
Yeah. True. All right, well, hey, that's going to wrap up our, what's this, Fight Night 64?
Fight Night 64. Gone.
Fight Night 64.
Say goodbye.
So bye-bye. See you later. It's in the books, ladies and gentlemen, but guess what? So is mybookie.ag. Use our promo code Weighing In. You guys, we did that to you guys. So, all right. Podcast Dave, go ahead. You can speak now. What do you got for us?
Speak.
So I know you guys caught at least highlights of Mark Hunt's last fight. He did say this is his last fight in the ring. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
His last fight in combat sports. I mean, he's done everything. He's done boxing. He's done MMA. He's done kickboxing. He was he was a world-class kickboxer in K1. He's fought the big dogs all around the world in terms of kickboxing. I mean, hey, I hear the little ones.
That's what it's all about, right there.
That's what it is. It is. I want, John, how will you remember him?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I hate to say it, but I'm going to, in multiple ways. First off, granite chin. A guy that could just take unbelievable shots. You take a look. People are going to look at his record in MMA, and he may. I'm not even sure he has a winning record, but it's close. But his record in MMA does not actually say who Mark Hunt was as a fighter, because he had a granite chin. I'm going to remember him for the atomic butt drop. Okay, he fought Vanderlei Silva in Pride. He did what Randy Couture, who was a guest speaker, called the atomic butt drop. And it was classic, because that was a huge fight, because it was MMA. Vanderlei was a monster in Pride at the time. He was their guy. He was, the biggest draw. He was an outstanding MMA fighter. Now, he wasn't Mark Hunt's size, but Mark Hunt beat him in that fight. And you looked and you said, Mark Hunt, coming from the kickboxing K1 world, a lot of people question, as far as the ground, he got better and better, and his takedown defense got much better to where people were just not able to take Mark Hunt down. And when he wasn't able to be taken down, you knew, oh, this is going to be a long night. And he had more walk-off
Yeah, I was about to say
moments than anybody I can think of, because, you know, he was a classy dude. He's a classy, you know, competitor. And when he hurt you, because he had, you know, not only the granite chin, he had freaking cinder blocks in his hands. And with the 4-ounce gloves, man, if he hit you even close to the right spot, you were in trouble. So I just loved what Mark Hunt brought. I thought he was always fun to watch. May not have been the guy that, you know, was able to get the championship. He actually did fight for the UFC interim title against Fabricio Verdum, if you recall, in Mexico City. But just a classy guy and just tough as hell.
Yeah, the atomic butt drop was definitely one that I remember him for. He changed people's careers after he did walk-off knockouts. He big tall guy.
Stephen Struve?
Yeah. He just pop, walked away before he hit the ground. I was like, oh shit. He was just, look, overall, you said granite chin, but there was a lot of heart involved. A lot of heart. His fights, did he have 2 fights or just the one that I remember? Bigfoot Silva.
Two,
right?
The first one
was
was unbelievable.
It was insane.
Unbelievable.
It was insane.
One of the best heavyweight fights you'll ever see.
Yeah, and and not because it was technical, not because they looked fantastic. They just delivered. They beat the shit out of each other, and they delivered, man. They did what you want from fighters, period. But they did what heavyweights have been known to do in history, and those are some of the best fights to ever watch. And he came out and delivered, man. Both of them did. I don't know if Bigfoot was ever the same after that fight.
No, he wasn't.
You know, I don't think he was ever the same after that fight.
There was a couple fights that when you look and you go, that one took a lot out of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Mark Hunt that first time, and Cain Velasquez when he fought him. Took a lot out of him.
Because you had DC, then you had Kane, then you had Mark Hunt. Just those 3 vicious knockouts, the way that they all happened. But I'm gonna remember him as somebody that I love his trash talk. I don't know if it's because he has an accent, but he didn't really trash talk, but he did kind of, you know, he would take digs at Dana, he'd take digs at some of his opponents, and when they would take digs at him, he was pretty well respected though across the board. No one really gave him a lot of heat because he was a fighter. He'd already been there, done that, and fought everybody. So I think people respected him and knew what he brought to the table. He's a fantastic fighter. I remember him as just being a dog. Someone that would fight anybody, and someone who fought all the biggest names in the sport of MMA and kickboxing. And so congratulations to him on finishing out his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mark Hunt, welcome to this side of the wall.
Welcome to the easier side.
Yes. Next.
All right, let's talk about this next one. So there was a report circulating on Twitter that Charles Oliveira was going to be fighting Fiziev on the Brazil card in January. And it said per Ariel Helwani, but Ariel said he never reported on it. And then Charles also put a tweet saying this fight won't happen. And surprisingly, his reaction was that he needs a break, and not just the fact that, like, well, you know, I'll want the Islam rematch, which is what I would have expected him to say there. But he said he needs a break, so this fight ain't happening.
When you're the champ, right, and all that pressure is relieved off your shoulders because you lost, it's that sense of, okay, take a deep breath, get refocused, enjoy life. Now, you know he was really enjoying, not just him, but a lot of the champions. They're really enjoying their life as champion, but it's a different type of enjoyment. You're traveling here doing press stuff. You're traveling here doing other stuff. You're all around the world doing what you can.
You're being pulled in so many different directions.
Yeah. He's out there promoting the organization that he's the champion in. Yep. Now is the time that that stresses all that weight off of his shoulders. He can now spend that time with his family. Just relax, go do whatever Not have to worry about getting a call going, hey, we need you to fly here tomorrow. Or, hey, we've got this presser coming up. Do this, do that. He doesn't have to worry about that as much. I'm sure because he's still a huge name. I'm sure they're still going to have him out there doing stuff. But I don't, that sense of relief. Who said it? Usman. He said once the fight was over with Leon, it was like, I'm good. Like, I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm good with what happened. It's that monkey off his back or that weight off of his shoulders, whatever it is. It's just done. Okay, now I can start fresh. Yeah, now I can start fresh.
It's like, everyone has seen that red dot when you're watching movies, and you see that red dot that's in the middle of your chest when the sniper is, that's what it's like to be the champion, though, because all of those guys have that red dot. You're the focus. You're the one that everybody wants, and this is like, what I said with, Islam Makhachev, and you sitting there and said, John, no, he couldn't get fights. Well, he'll get fights now because it is, it's the difference. Once you have that belt, now everybody, I don't care who you are, they want to fight you. They want to fight the champ, and you've got that target on you, and it's not an easy thing to deal with. There's pressure involved with it, and everybody is coming after you. Everybody. And it's like, hey, it takes a certain type of personality to be able to deal with it and deal with it well. And I'm not saying that Charles didn't do it. He did a great job. But once that pressure's gone, it's nice to be able to go, yeah, just let me be for a little bit. Just give me some time. And that's okay. I think he needs the time. Give him the time. And if someday if he fights Fiziev, I think that's a fun fight to watch. But give him the time.
I mean, not to take anything away from Fiziev, but I don't see why Charles would come back and fight him.
I don't either. I'm being honest. So if you're going to be and taking a look at the rankings of where things are at, the lowest you would go, Dariush, who's on a run.
Yeah. Oh, and the only reason why I'd say Dariush is because you've already beaten the other three guys.
Yeah.
If you look at, you've already beaten Dustin, you've already beaten Justin, Dariush, you've already beaten Chandler. You got Fiziev at 6. I would just say Dariush. And because if the fight with Islam and Volk happens, that's going to put you out even longer. So why not fight someone like Dariush in the process? But I think it's a brilliant idea that he's taking time off.
Yeah.
And when we say time off, you know what that time means? That means like he's probably just going to take a month. He'll be in the gym every single day.
Oh no, he'll be in the gym, but he doesn't have to have that pressure of I've got a fight coming up, focusing on certain people. No. Hey, I go in, I train, I do my thing, I go home, spend time with the family. It's all good.
That level of intensity and training won't be there every single day for a month.
That's right.
He'll be in there just having fun, jumping rope, getting some rounds in with like the guys that are 125. Just having fun. That's good for him, man. Good for him. I got to be honest. I said this before. When I look at the dynamic of our sport and the champions that are there, and when I was talking about Charles and everyone was ragging on me because I'm a homer for my boy in Islam, I said, Charles Oliveira, if my son wanted to look up to somebody, I'd say, look at that kid.
Oh yeah.
Like he's come from nothing. He didn't have anything. He's dealt with adversity in the cage. He's lost. He's come back, become champion.
Yep.
He's fought his ass off. He has always been respectful to everyone. There's a video going around right now of every single time that he walked and fought, he'd walk to the other corner, shake their hand, hug their corner, shake their corner's hands, and then move around as you circle around when you enter the cage. Respect all the way around, always very confident in what he does. If you have a young son or you have a young child that's looking for a mentor, or not mentor, but looking to be a role model, look at where he came from. There's a story there. If I'm somebody that has Loretta Hunt, if I'm someone that can write a book, I'd be picking that fucking story up quick. Real quick. That guy's got a story and it's absolutely amazing. So, next.
All right. Next story. Kevin Gastelum is talking about a move back to welterweight. A potential move back to welterweight, we should say.
I said this to you earlier, John. I'm like, wait. Move back. Did you ever make weight at welterweight? and
he made it once.
I love Kelvin Gastelum. When I talked to him in Phoenix the last time we were there for Bellator, He's such a nice guy, man. So nice, so respectful, just and he's a dog in that cage. He's a dog. He's a tweener. That's the problem with him. He's not big enough for 85, and he's too big. Not too big. He just has a hard time getting to 70. And the thing is, let's not forget, he gave Izzy his best fight in that cage. That was Izzy's toughest fight. Was that guy right there?
Yep.
That guy who's a tweener. That was his toughest fight. Fantastic fight. But I also think, though, John, since that fight, he hasn't really been the same.
This is true.
And when we talk about fighters taking years off their lives or changing their life or changing their career,
little pieces of them staying in the cage.
That was one of those
fight
fights.
with